Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning, Alliance partners, friends of the Alliance, esteemed guests, and dear students. It was exactly 1 year back that we planned to hold the undergraduate research conference here at Johnson C. Smith University and had great plans to get you a taste of JCSU hospitality. But that was not to be. Due to circumstances beyond our control, Miss Mattie Marshall and myself, we worked hard to give you a semblance of what we had planned for you earlier. So, for the whole year, the whole team that includes our partners, the team from UVA, we have been working very hard to bring to you what we have been doing every year. So, ultimately, again, due to circumstances beyond our control, we bring to you, instead of an undergraduate research conference for the first time, 2021 virtual LSAMP retreat. At least after 1 year, like Christian just said, I'm able to put a face to a name. That is very, very important. So, before I go with the housekeeping rules and other things, I would like to acknowledge the Alliance partners. So, let's have a big shout out, and I would like to just name the 12 Alliance partners that we have in our VA-NC LSAMP. I'll go alphabetically. The first school is Bennett College. Thank you. The second school is Elizabeth City State University. Thank you, Dr. Khan. Thirdly, George Mason. NRAO, National Radio Astronomy Observatory. Old Dominion University. PVCC, that's Piedmont Virginia Community College. St. Aug's, St. Augustine University. TNCC, Thomas Nelson Community College. UVA, University of Virginia. VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. And finally, VTech, from where my daughter is. And yours truly's university, Johnson C. Smith University. Thank you, Mary. So these are the schools, and thank you very much for representing your schools, the partners, and especially the rest of you who have come here early in the morning to participate in today's retreat. Before I hand over to Dean Vijay Gompa for her remarks, a quick recap of some of the housekeeping rules today. I'll repeat them again for people who are coming in. Please stay muted unless you are speaking. Number two, feel free to use the reactions to affirm something you hear resonates with you. Number three, please use the chat box for Q&A. But my request is, please use it sparingly in order to keep focused on the broad picture. Use the raise hand feature that you have at the bottom of the screen. Alerts will be sent when there are 5 minutes and 1 minute remaining before the breakout rooms. So please, the moderators and other people try to finish up then. So we'll be sending out the alerts 5 minutes before and 1 minute before. Be on the lookout for a pop-up window inviting you to join your breakout room. During breakouts, if feasible, please keep your video on. And finally, if you need to be placed in a breakout room, please send a message to any of the hosts or the co-hosts, please. And we will place you or move you to that particular breakout room. I'll repeat this housekeeping rules again. For lack of time right now, I'd like to hand this over to Dean Vijay Gompa for her remarks. Thank you. Dean Gampa, please.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. As the Dean of the College of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, shortly called as STEM, at Johnson C. Smith University, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to the Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation Program 2021 Virtual Retreat. This event is an opportunity for attendees to make network with the partner institutions and recharge. We are very happy that you have chosen to be with us today. LSA MP mission is in alignment with the priorities of the STEM College at JCSU. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of the Virginia, North Carolina Alliance and committed to the success of the LSA MP program. I'm very excited about the agenda and hope all of you will enjoy and gain valuable knowledge. The retreat is scheduled from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I offer my heartfelt welcome to all of you again, and I offer my gratitude to Dr. Sunil Gupta, Dr. Kevin McDonald, and all the people who organized this event and making it very successful. Now I hand over to Dr. McDonald. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dean Gumpa. And thank you so much as well, Sunil. It's great to be with you all this morning. So good morning, students, faculty, staff members, and honored guests, and welcome to the 2021 Virginia North Carolina Alliance Retreat. My name is Kevin McDonald, and I serve as the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Partnerships at the University of Virginia, and I am honored to be here with you today as Principal Investigator for the Virginia North Carolina Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. Now, first and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge that for some of our partner institutions that are like the University of Virginia, the land where we live, learn, and work is the ancestral homelands and traditional territory of Native American Indian nations. I pay respect to their elders and knowledge keepers, past and present and future. And I also acknowledge and pay respect to the enslaved laborers who played any role in building any of our partner schools, like the significant role that they played in building the University of Virginia. Finally, since we're in the midst of the Hindu Festival of Holi that celebrates the start of spring, I'd like to acknowledge this important day as well. Now, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Johnson C. Smith University President Clarence Clay Armbrister for generously hosting us for our first Alliance-wide virtual gathering. I'd also like to thank Professor Sunil Gupta and Ms. Maddie Marshall of JCSU, because they both worked tirelessly to plan last spring's symposium, which was canceled due to the pandemic, and then pivoted to bring us today's retreat with the help of my colleagues, Kristen Morgan, Maurice Walker, and Deb White. I would also like to recognize the upcoming contributions of today's keynote speaker, moderators, alumni, faculty, staff, graduate school and industry recruiters, anyone who is here to support our undergraduate students. I want to thank you and acknowledge your presence. And speaking of our students, I'm so appreciative that you are here today and that you continue to navigate and persevere through a challenging pandemic to continue your education during these unprecedented times. I encourage you to keep taking advantage of these types of opportunities as they present themselves and as you are able, whether it is the opportunity to conduct and participate in research experiences, to present virtually or in person at regional, national, or international conferences, or to participate in professional development programs. These are all opportunities for growth that will help maximize your full potential. And finally, I want to share an important number with you that illustrates how all of your hard work and the dedication of your faculty and mentors pays off. 14,612. Now I know that means absolutely nothing to you without context, but that is the number of STEM bachelor degrees earned by our Alliance Level 1 and 2 students between 2007 and 2020. Many of these students have gone on to earn graduate degrees and to serve their communities by solving the most complex problems of our time. You see, each and every one of you carry the promise of excellence in STEM, So I look forward to the many contributions you will make to our nation and our world during the years ahead. Have an amazing retreat. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Gupta for any announcements prior to our first breakout session. Thank you. Dr. Gupta, I think you may still be muted.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Dr. McDonald. And it's indeed a pleasure to work under your leadership. And we've had some good times and not so good times, especially the last 1 year. But anyways, before we start, I would like to repeat the housekeeping rules once again, please. Please stay muted unless you are speaking. Feel free to use the reactions to affirm something you hear that resonates with you. Use the chat feature for Q&A, but please use it sparingly. Get into the broader picture. Use the raise hand feature. Alerts will be sent to you when there's 5 minutes, and again add 1 minute remaining before the breakout rooms. Be on the lookout for a pop-up window inviting you to join your breakout rooms. During breakouts, if feasible, please keep your video on. If you need to be placed in a different breakout room, please send a message to the host or one of the co-hosts, and you shall be placed in the correct breakout room. So that's about it from my side, and all the very best. Hope you enjoy this morning and the afternoon. Hope you gain something out of it, and we sure have worked very hard to bring you this, what do we call it, the extravaganza. All the best. Have a nice day. Thank you. Joy, you can take over, please.
All of you that are still in here, you should have an invitation to join a breakout room. If you are minimized, like if your Zoom screen is minimized, you may not see it. So either make your Zoom screen full screen or see if it's popped up somehow behind your screen, but you should have an invitation to a room.
Thank you for joining us this morning for this panel. And our other panelist is Dr. Siddhi Gupta, who is a doctor of osteopathic medicine. Dr. Gupta immigrated from India with her family in 2000. She attended North Carolina State University, graduating in 2009, and completed her medical education at the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine in Blacksburg, Virginia in 2014. From there, she completed her 4-year residency at Geisinger Medical Center in Pennsylvania in both internal medicine and pediatrics, and discovered her calling to pursue a career in infectious diseases. Since then, she made her way back to North Carolina and attended Wake Forest University for her fellowship and joined the faculty at Novant Health last fall as an infectious disease specialist. Along the way, she met her husband, adopted her fur baby Lucy, And when she's not at the hospital, she enjoys reading, painting, and traveling. So Dr. Gupta, thank you for joining us this morning for our panel discussion. So we have a few questions, Dana, Ms. Battle, and I will be kind of alternating back and forth. And of course, if anybody has questions who's joining us this morning, certainly raise your hand. I'll get to your questions also. Okay. So I'll start out with the first question. So, the vaccines that we have now were developed in really astonishing pace, right? I mean, the process of getting them approved and everything was quite astounding. So some people might be worried about the safety of the vaccine. So in your opinion, and again, whoever feels most comfortable taking this, or both can offer your ideas, is how safe is the vaccines that we have available to us today?
All right, good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. It's truly a pleasure to be with you all today. So I'm happy to take this question, if that's all right with Ms. Plummer. So mRNA technology, which is really the technology that's being used for the vaccines that we have currently, well, two of the vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, has actually been in place for quite a few years. We've always known about coronaviruses, and so those have been studied for a very long time. So I wouldn't say that the technology has not been there or that it was fast-tracked. The reason for the vaccine fast-tracking is because we were in a pandemic. So really it has gone through all of the phase testings, phase 1, 2, 3, and the safety of all of those are it's pretty safe. We've read all of the FDA booklets on them, and so I would say that it's very, very safe.
Okay, great, thank you. Dana, would you like to ask this question?
Yes, Dr. Hunt, thank you. Next question would be, should I get the vaccine even if I've had the infection?
Yes. So as of right now, we currently do not know how long your immunity lasts if you've been infected with SARS-CoV or COVID-19. There has been some data to suggest that you have somebody infected. However, that's an average. So some people will have less, some people will have more. So it's still recommended that you get the vaccine for better immunity.
Great, thank you. And at this point, as many of us know, we have to get the flu vaccine every year because the things change. How long do we know how long the immunity from the COVID vaccines last at this point?
At this point, we do not. If you know, really the vaccine rollout just started in December. So we're very young and very new into it. They have started looking at studies already to see that people who first got the vaccine, if they still have immunity built. And so far, that's still in process. So this is going to be almost a prospective kind of study where we're actively looking at people who've received the vaccine. So I think it's still a little too soon to tell how long immunity is going to be, but so far the results, it looks like they're very reassuring.
Great, thank you.
And if I get the vaccine, do I still have to wear a mask and stay socially distant and all that other good stuff?
Yes, the question that comes up a lot. So, an analogy I really like to use when I'm talking with my patients or just even family members is when we're driving a car, we're still using all of the precautions that we would use anyways in a general day basis, right? To protect ourselves from an inadvertent accident. We're wearing our seatbelt, we're making sure to follow all the lane rules, we're making sure to stop and proceed when we can. So what I can say is that the CDC has actually come out with some good guidelines that if you've been vaccinated and you have your own full family vaccinated, then you do not have to be masked around them. Or if you have some kind of a pod system where you've established that the people in that pod have been vaccinated, then you should be safe. However, when you're going out, because we are seeing variants in COVID, yes, we're still recommending that you do physical distancing, wearing the mask, washing your hands, all of that good stuff.
Great, thank you. Here's actually a question that I've actually been thinking about. So every day when I go to the mailbox, I'm thinking, could the mail be infected, right? Could I get it from that? So is that a, is that a reasonable way of transmission, or is it more airborne, or what would you say to people who are worried about, you know, handling packages with the mail, things like that?
Sure. So if you remember initially in the pandemic last year, we were vigorously showing you how to wipe everything down that you were bringing from outside. And I wouldn't say that we have to completely take that away. I think you can relax a little bit. What we do know is most commonly the way of transmission is through droplets and airborne. So if you're in the presence of somebody who has COVID, you're in close quarters, not enough circulation, that's really how people are really getting the infection. However, there is surface transmission happening too. And if you actually look online, there are separate time frames. So like, for example, on metal, the virus tends to stay longer than on cardboard, than on, you know, other surfaces. But I don't think you have to go crazy wiping everything down. Just remember that if you are using these things, you're washing your hands afterwards.
Great, thank you.
Next question. What should I do if I get infected with COVID-19?
Okay, so the main thing is making sure that you are quarantining yourself. That's really the biggest thing. Unless you have any underlying medical conditions, I would still recommend that you touch base with your primary care doctor and just ask them if there's anything specific that you need to do. But if you're young and healthy, and most of the recommendations right now is that you are staying isolated. Well, I shouldn't say isolated, quarantine. No, you shouldn't be isolated. And then just wearing a mask. If you do have other family members in the house, then yes, they need to be quarantined as well, and making sure they're wearing a mask. If somebody else is taking care of you, then the mask is really the most important thing. And then just touch base with your primary care doctor if you're not feeling well. But at this point, the main thing is just staying home.
I would like to add to that as well, just to alert friends and families that you've been around, that you do have COVID, so they take the necessary precautions as well.
Great, thank you both. And I'm sure this is a question probably on Dana's mind currently. So when will college, so we're planning to come back to campus in the fall, when will college students be able to get the vaccine? Like when will they be up next in their group?
So we are currently in group 4, I believe. But what I can tell you is just the other day I attended a panel discussion, and the hope is for really all of North Carolina that by the end of April, we all will be vaccinated. So I'm hoping that by the end of April, even college students included should be vaccinated. We may be able to, if things aren't progressing as well as we would like, it may be pushed to May, but the goal is between April and May that everybody will be vaccinated.
Thank you.
So how do you guys manage the stress of living in a pandemic?
Well, I'll have Ms. Plummer take that on first, and then I'm happy to share.
Okay, there are a number of things that we're seeing: anxiety levels, depression, stress levels are going through the roof. And let's just remember that on top of the pandemic is all the excitement and challenges that came with the election and prior to the election. So we're looking at compounded effects in areas where you've also been affected by natural disasters. Then that's an additional stress. We're finding that isolation has been really detrimental to our mental health because we're social beings by nature. And so we're finding clients coming in that haven't been in for years. We're finding people who normally are pretty good at maintaining good mental health are having to come in to seek services. So how do we cope? We try to reach out, whether it's virtually or not. We maintain a circle of supportive friends. We talk about how we're feeling, and we reach out. And sometimes we have to reach out for professional help because our mental health is everything. without good mental health, we can't cope. And so we reach out to friends, we reach out to family, we reach out to professionals, we reach out to teachers, we reach out to neighbors just to check in. So it's really important to not stay isolated, even if you're physically apart. So Zoom chats, FaceTime, studying as a group, use whatever works for you. Exercise is great to support your mental health. So those are some of my suggestions.
So if I could just piggyback on that as well, I wanted to share a little bit of an anecdote from this past year. So as you probably already know, I was in my infectious disease training. And when the pandemic first hit, which was in March, I was actually about to complete my training in the summertime. So I guess you can say that I was a bit of a student before I took a full-time position here at Novant. So me and my husband actually came up with a mnemonic that I wanted to share with you all today. And I think hopefully this would help you a little bit to use it in your day-to-day life. But I call it, when you're faced with an uncertainty, you remember to stand, and stand is the mnemonic. So S is really first and foremost to stay inspired. You've probably heard people say, just stay positive. I say stay inspired instead, because I think that really necessitates an action. So when you're inspired, you're more likely to want to go out and do something. And when people say positive or negative, I kind of think of it as a charge on a battery, but inspiration in my mind really propels you to do more. So really, inspiration could be in anything. Really, it's the main things, trying to do things that you love doing, like Ms. Plummer already said. And when you are inspired, then the next thing you want to do is to take care of yourself. So that's the T in the stand. And that really means trying to find your zen. So whatever you have to do to take care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, or faithfully, if that's something that's important to you, definitely engage in that. And take time for each of these things as often as you can. And then thirdly, accept the unknown. So that's the A. We all know uncertainty in life is very inevitable. So learning to embrace it can actually be a very powerful thing. One of the main things for me, learning curve, was that when I received that first phone call when we didn't even have COVID in North Carolina, was accepting that the recommendations I'm providing will probably be changing, and kind of finding that zen inside to know that, this may or may not work, and giving that some rest. So understand that that's okay to accept the unknown sometimes, and that it's not a weakness, it's actually a recognition of your humanity. And then next is notice how you're feeling. So even about the little things, just try to be a little bit more self-aware. Take time to breathe. Believe it or not, in a given day, I sometimes think, am I actually breathing? So just take 10 seconds, deep breaths, and that'll really shift your energy a lot. And then lastly is disconnect and really reconnect. And I cannot emphasize that enough. I think taking a break from electronics, social media, and trying to really meaningfully connect with those that mean to you is very important. It is very difficult for me to shut off myself from social media too. But I can't tell you how much that would help you. So if you can take brief periods, I think that would really help your mental health as well.
Great, thank you both. So one of the questions I have, so as of now, JCSU, our first day of classes for the fall is going to be August 16th. So assuming we meet this goal of being all vaccinated end of April, or at least having enough vaccines to vaccinate end of April, do you see it being safe to return to campus, let's say mid-August? If so, do we still have to would we still take all the same precautions that we're doing now? Again, I know this is a little bit kind of projecting out, but I mean, just based on your professional opinions, how do you see that unfolding?
So I can speak on the scientific part of things. As you rightfully mentioned, it's really going to be taking it week by week, day by day. I will tell you that, and thankful probably to the vaccination, our caseload has dropped tremendously. Just a couple of months ago, our floors were packed with patients. And just the other day when I was walking the floor, I could tell a dramatic shift in that. So our hospitalizations are going down. And I can say in general, people are, like that's why CDC really relaxed their recommendations more, where you can be with other people unmasked and 3 feet distance. I do think that it doesn't mean that we should completely let down our guard. Summertime is approaching, and I think that's going to be the biggest tell-all. As you can remember from last year, May, June, we saw the peak going back up because everybody was outside. Bars and restaurants are open late now. We're really relaxing on those mandates. So really, it's going to be kind of figuring out where the peak of that curve is during the summer to determine what happens in August. That's why I'm really encouraging everybody as much as if you can, please get vaccinated. Please continue to maintain those social distancing, masking, so we can have our students go back to college in August. It is a very important experience of their life, and I really want them back in school. I mean, I wouldn't have missed it for the world, and I want them to go back to school too. So all of the students, not just college students. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that if we maintain the trend we are in right now, that yes, we should be back to normal scheduling.
And I would say, for me, I use universal precautions. I assume everyone is infected. And so
Yes.
I wouldn't say I'm a little bit obsessive, but maybe
Nothing
others
wrong with
might.
that.
But it doesn't, in my mind, the way I think about it is it doesn't hurt to take precautions, but it may hurt not to. And so wearing a mask, washing our hands, social distancing, that is not a high price to pay for being able to learn in person, because not everyone can do it remotely. And I realized that I miss half the information when I'm not able to see someone's full face. And so for years, I didn't know that I was actually reading body language and reading lips. And when my clients' faces are half covered, it's difficult for me to hear what they're saying. So communication is not only verbal, it's nonverbal as well. But take those precautions and walk away from situations feeling that you've done what you can do. We can't prevent everything in the world, but some things are within our control. And so if it's in our control, let's go ahead and do the best we can. Protect each other as well.
Great, thank you. If I could just jump a quick follow-up from Ms. Plummer. So let's assuming things are safe, we go back to campus in August, right? I'm wondering how I'm going to react. I'm going to feel like being in these classrooms again. I mean, a year and a half ago it was what we did. It was normal, right? Now we're going to be going into these groups of people again, and maybe that's going to cause some anxiety, stress for the faculty, the students also, not being in that environment for so long. What are some strategies that maybe people can cope with that anxiety and stress of kind of being in these group gatherings again that we thought were just normal before, but now we've kind of been conditioned to kind of avoid them, right? So what ideas do you have on that?
I remember last March when it first hit, and most of us were not even going to the grocery stores. And now we go to the grocery store as if it's nothing. So really trying to do the things that you can do to stay safe. Keep in small circles if that works for you. Being able to discuss how you're feeling with other professionals. And like I said before, talking to counselors, talking to your peers, talking to your teacher about how you feel, and have them assist you in feeling better. And what I mean about this is I have a group of friends that tease me all the time about wearing my mask. I said, okay, that's okay. I would like to feel safe, and this is what I require to feel safe. And so if you have a roommate, for instance, you talk about the boundaries. What is it that makes me feel safe? It doesn't make me feel safe when people are in the room that I don't know. So those are some of the things, you know, ask for help, and do what's comfy for you. And if it's not, talk to other people about how you can resolve the issue so that you feel better about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think definitely if you're in a situation where you're not comfortable, trust your instincts and trust your gut. Okay, in the long term, it would be better for you to have removed yourself than to stay there and then keep going back and forth to think about, oh, should I have done this or not? And then again, from my standpoint, trust the science. You know, in a short period of time, we have really learned so much about it. So if we're coming out and giving recommendations that you're okay to be in this setting without mask or in that setting with mask, trust the science. There's a lot of good scientists and epidemiologists that have been working day and night since this began, and we've come such a long way. So I would also put your faith in that, and really there's some, you know, and there's going to be anxiety. We are vaccinated. I'm still anxious when I'm around people, but I think some of that has definitely improved because I'm seeing the trends in the amount of cases. So keeping abreast of the knowledge of what's happening with COVID and understanding your own self. And that's where I bring to understand yourself and take that time to understand what makes you feel safe and important is really going to help you when you go back to school again in August.
Great, thank you both. Dina?
Yeah, so what are some of the factors that lead to mental health decline during a pandemic? We all know, and you know, you hear it all over the news, they say don't sit in the house, but there's not much we could do at one point and we still can't do too much. So what are some more factors that lead to a mental health decline that we could take note of and, you know, maybe make changes?
Okay, let's look at how pandemic has affected us. There's the isolation and the social distancing, illness and death. That in the pandemic, we haven't been able to use those cultural coping techniques that we normally do. I recently had a death in the family and we weren't able to have the same kind of closure because we weren't able to physically all be in the same spot. There's limited activities, right? Increased communication difficulties. I spoke earlier about not being able to hear people because I can't see their full face. Increased stress, anxiety, depression, loss of life with reduced opportunities for closure is what I spoke about earlier. Disruption of cultural, religious, and festive events, closure of entertainment places, limited traveling, closure of schools, colleges. You know, that face-to-face learning is important for many people. And as a result, sometimes we have reduced academic performance. So all that is compounding how you cope. And so, you know, being able to adjust and find new ways of coping is important. You know, how do you replace those? So for instance, I do a number of Zoom chats with friends. I have cousin chats, I have sibling chats, you know, and that's important. We play games over Zoom, you know, so those things are important. So those, you know, in normal times, what happens is we have slow releases of stress. And so something happens, you talk to your friend about it, you know, you go to church, you put your music on, there's slow releases. In a pandemic where you're isolated, those slow releases are not always there. And so things build up. You need to know yourself and realize there are times when I might need to reach out to someone. And so, you know, you can have a bubble of people who you trust to take the same precautions that you do. Taking walks are important. Being able to breathe, you know, being able to have those relaxation moments is important. So I would say, being able to give yourself those slow releases, even though you're isolated, is important.
Thank you for that. At the end of the breakout session, do you mind leaving contact for any therapists or any mental health professionals we can talk to? Because we can say reach out all the time, but to who? Like, I personally don't know anybody I can reach out to.
Right.
For my mental health. So
Okay. And I do have a list.
thank you.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. So another question is, we have vaccines that were designed to target the quote unquote original virus, right? Now we're hearing about all these variants, right? The UK variant, South Africa variant. So how concerned should we be about that? Do we know what kind of level of protection the current vaccines offer against the variants? And so, Dr. Gupta, if you can maybe kind of, what do you know about that, or any ideas about that?
Sure. So the two main variants that I think are currently concerning is definitely the UK. There's a South African and then also a South American variant, the Brazilian variant that we're seeing. What we know about the variants is that it's not as pathogenic. And what I mean by that is that the spectrum of illness that you would get from what we had, the original COVID-19, is going to be about the same, but it's easily transmissible. So in other words, you might be in a group of 5 people, and this is all theoretical and hypothetical, they might be able to get it easier than, say, with the original COVID-19. But what I will say is that the vaccine technology, the mRNA, that is still recognizing the variant. So I'm not afraid that the vaccine is not going to be covering the new variants. And what I'm more afraid, I guess, if I have to say, is just that we might have more cases and more people getting sick if the variants are really kind of dispersing in North Carolina. But the vaccine should still be, should work against the variants. That's the knowledge we have so far. Now, this could potentially change, but that's the knowledge we have right now.
Great, thank you.
I am currently out of questions. So does anybody else have any questions they would like to ask on the Zoom?
Yeah, we covered a lot of topics, from the vaccinations to the mental health. Certainly we could come up with some more, but yeah, any of our attendees have any questions that we didn't cover, or something?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, I had a question, but the person that spoke before, I can go.
Yeah, Ms. Wofford, if you want to go, I didn't see who was speaking, so if you go ahead and ask your questions.
I was just curious in regards to with COVID-19. I think that how does the community, I guess the medical community, address the aspect of minorities being afraid to take the vaccine? As a Black American, I think that living in the South, I don't know that sometimes we've not always had a good relationship in regards to taking vaccines, because a lot of people, some of the circles that I know, they bring up Tuskegee and other forms of, those things. So how, as a medical professional, do you address those situations and in rebuilding those trusts with, medicine and minority communities?
Sure, and thank you so much for that question. And I'm actually kind of glad you brought that up, because that was something initially that we had observed. And I would say that for minorities in general, that is something that, people generally do have a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for, is that there's not a lot of faith, and you want to get the best information. So I can only speak on my practice and kind of how I approach the situation. I treat all my patients with equity. There's absolutely no discrimination there whatsoever. But I do take every opportunity that I get with each of my patients, no matter what their ethnic background is, to explain to them how the vaccine works, and to also show them the data on demographics as well. So when there is a question about, the minorities not getting as many vaccinations, I show them the demographics of the people who have received the vaccinations and the side effects that we have seen and the positive or negative data that we have seen. The one thing that I do know as the hospitals are doing is that they are trying to do a lot more outreach. So they are setting up clinics in minority-driven areas, and where they're going out and actually educating, and whether that takes place in churches or whether that's just free clinics that they've set up. But I think that's really helped a lot because they're showing that, you know, you are priority, and we want to make sure that you are fully protected against this virus. And so that kind of education and outreach is very important to me and something that I'm trying to do in my daily practice. But I also know that hospitals are working very actively to do that too.
And I would say what I do is I process my clients' feelings. What is valid? What is not valid? Why do they feel that way? Where do they get their information from? And at the end, I try to assist them and come into a decision that works for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think really starting a conversation with an open statement is, tell me your concerns and why are you worried about this? And then going into that really kind of helps build a relationship. So I couldn't agree more with that.
Thank you.
Great,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Did you have another question, Ms. Wofford, or did that cover everything?
No, that was my only question.
Okay, great. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
No,
I
I
do.
have one.
I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Russell. Oh,
No.
Ms. Bush, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Princess Bush, a senior biology major at Bennett College, and I have a couple of questions. So for my first question, I heard you all kind of touch on it as far as the vaccine and, you know, acquired immunity in ourselves, like if we had gotten COVID before. And I just wanted to know, how does that differ? So if we were to get COVID, how does surviving COVID and how does that immunity compare to getting the vaccine? That's my first question.
Okay. So if I understand your question right, you mean, do you have protected immunity from the infection versus the vaccine? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Kind of. So I know that once we get a sickness at times, our body's able to, like, if we survive it, our body's able to gain like T cells and B cells and things to recognize the sickness if it were to come again, which helps it to either not be as bad as it previously was and so forth. So I just wanted to know, how does that differ from the vaccine, since I know that the vaccine is still being promoted that we should get the vaccine even if we have gotten COVID and survived it.
Yes. So what we know is that vaccine immunity is better. Okay. So what they've already, so natural immunity, that to answer your question that you're saying, when you get an illness, after that you develop antibodies. So for example, if you've had COVID and you've built those antibodies, it is very unpredictable. So mild infections, so if you don't get a very strong infection, you may not get the best immunity from it. Okay. A more severe infection, again, doesn't guarantee that, but a vaccine guarantees you some level of immunity. The vaccine that's being studied right now, the Pfizer and Moderna, are 95% effective, which is amazing because even the other vaccines that we've gotten in our life, like measles, mumps, rubella, all of those, they've not even touched that. Even the annual influenza vaccine that we get, you know, it's hardly ever 90-95%. So what we know so far is that the immunity from the vaccines is really good. But again, to your point, it's being actively studied, so we won't know till we have actually gone through the initial vaccines, and then we can do some studies.
Thank you. And my second question is, as far as when people are vaccinated, I heard you mention during this time, while some are vaccinated and some are not, that it may be a time where you can form like your bubbles with people who are vaccinated once you get vaccinated and things like that. And I just wanted to know, kind of relating to mental health, how would that affect those who are not currently vaccinated, as far as inclusiveness? How can we still practice inclusiveness and just common care without endangering one another, and also maintaining the distance but not creating like cliques or anything like that? Or how do we keep the hostility towards people who are unvaccinated or vaccinated? How do we maintain just that common good and care for one another, even while we're at different stages with COVID vaccines?
Right. Again, it's important to proceed how you're comfy. There's still social distancing, still wearing our masks, still washing our hands, things like that. But there's the other piece of it too, that you cannot risk your safety for someone else's comfort. And so that is something that you communicate to your friends and family, that this is what I'm okay with. And so I'm probably going to interact more with people who are vaccinated than I am with people who are not. And it's going to be a different type of interaction. And as we spoke earlier, there's still ways of maintaining contact and seeing people, as we're doing right now, without physically being in the same place. So you have to proceed as you're comfortable doing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Bush. Great questions, and thanks, Ms. Plummer. Okay, so we have about 2 minutes left, I guess, until the official ending of this part of this breakout room. Any other questions on Dr. Russell? Were you trying to get a question in? Did you have a quick question you want to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Cindy about long-term effects of the vaccines for those of us who are old and waiting to find out if they're going to have one after 2 months.
Well, first of all, hey, Dr. Russell, how are you?
Fine. I'm fine so far.
If others in this room do not know, he's essentially been a mentor of mine since I was in high school. So we go way back. What we do know at this point, and again, we have to kind of keep in mind that really the vaccine rollout just happened back in December. So it's still very soon to know kind of like long-term effects. But if we are trusting the technology, the mRNA technology, at this point, we do not anticipate that we're going to have any kind of long-term debilitating effects from the vaccine. But I really cannot answer that at this point. What I can say is that it really comes to balance. And the question is, would you rather have COVID-19 or would you protect yourself from that? And as a very personal attestation, I have actually had the virus myself. It was not a pleasant experience. So as soon as the vaccine was available, I mean, we were first in line to get it. So I think that protecting yourself and building that immunity to me takes precedence over any long-term effects, which again, at this point, we have not seen. And we're quite a few months, I would say. Yes, it was just December, but we're still 3-4 months into it. And so far we haven't seen anything.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Gupta.
I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
And I guess I'll ask maybe the last quick question, which I'm sure is in the back of all of our minds. Should we pretty much be resigned that we have to wear masks at least through the end of this year, or?
I would say so. Yes.
Okay. I assume so, but just want to.
But again, the science is changing. But if you're in your bubbles and your pods, then the CDC is recommending not. And then I believe there was a question earlier about resources. I don't have a specific list of counselors that I know personally, but the CDC does have 5 or 6 different websites that cater to different needs. And if you can find it right under the COVID-19 bubble, they have a huge bubble on there. So you can definitely access that, and they can get you in touch with anybody that you need for mental health and awareness. So that's another source, just to apply.
Okay.
And
Great.
I've
Thanks, Dr.
attached
Gupta.
my email address. Feel free to contact me and I can send you the list of resources. I would say, just off the top of my head, start with your counselor at your schools. They're available. If not, check your social work department. Contact your insurance company. And There's also other support services like the National Alliance on Mental Health, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is short NAMI, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, SHAM, HSA National Helpline. Those are resources that are always available.
Great. Thank you so much. So
And
Dr.
will
Gupta?
you enable my chat as well so I can put my information down in case anybody has any questions? I'm happy to provide my email address as well. It says my chat's disabled on. Or I can just email it to you. That would be fine.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, it says mine's disabled too, so I don't know what's going
Hello.
on. Oh, yes. Did you have
I have a quick question. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you.
So good morning. My name is Sarai Bilinsete, a graduating senior biology major at Bennett College. So my question was, would a vaccine be effective if you didn't know that you already had COVID and did receive the vaccine?
Yes, it would be. Short answer is yes.
Okay, great.
Oh.
Okay.
So hello everyone, my name is Ashlyn Lee. I'm a senior biology major at Bennett College. My question would be, if you've had COVID one time, is it possible to get it another time? I've seen documents, well not documents, I guess just websites saying if you've had it after 90 days, you can get it again, but I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Very, very rare is the answer to that. I will say there have been a few cases of getting reinfected, but again, it depends on the timing of when the COVID, when they were checked. So you're absolutely right, the 90 days, but again, 90 days is very average. Some people will have immunity for a shorter period. Some people have it for a longer period. I would say I wouldn't say that it's very common. I mean, there's really just been a handful of cases to my knowledge.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Gupta. So we're going to have to, we could go on, I'm sure, for much longer, but we're have to get ready to transition to the recruiter session of this breakout session. So Dr. Gupta, Ms. Plummer, thank you so much for your valuable information. And thank you for being on the front lines of this, kind of helping us all manage our way through it. You've both provided great information. Thanks to everybody who attended and asked great questions. Thanks to my co-moderator, Dana, who's, I don't see her pop up in the window here anymore, but anyway, so thank you so much. We're gonna have to, you can take like a 1 minute stretch and we'll jump into the recruiter session in just a second.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, thanks, everyone.
Take care of
Thank
yourselves.
Thanks, Ms. Plummer.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Gupta.
Bye-bye.
So, yeah, so the recruiter session is also part of this breakout room, so don't go anywhere. We'll just give everybody a chance to take a quick stretch if you need to.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure, really quickly. We have about a minute or so. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering about we have different variants of COVID out there now. Maybe somebody asked this question before, but I'm sort of wondering if you think that we're going to go through these continuous, whether this is going to be something that we have to deal with on a regular basis, like we deal with the flu. Are we going to be, I mean, they talk about getting a vaccine every year because of the variants. Are we going to be wearing masks, for the next 5 years, do you think? Not continuously. I mean, there will be a point where masks are no longer mandated, but do you think that there will be a resurgence of this where we'll have to go back into virtual teaching and wearing the masks? Or do you think that there's going to be a point where we're truly back to normal?
So it's possible maybe Dr. Gupta maybe left the meeting. So
I think she did.
So sorry about that. But anyway, maybe we can follow up with her some other time. So
I think she answered part of the question earlier. And at this point in time, the reality is we do not know if we'll be wearing masks 5 years from now. My speculation is that we won't be. I think we have ample time, and the virus is something that's not totally new. And we've dealt with the other SARS and things like that. So I don't speculate 5 years from now. Are we going to be wearing it December? I don't know. Hopefully not.
I think as long as people continue to get the vaccine and we can reach that herd immunity, that maybe we'll be able to get over this. But if people are still resistant to getting the vaccine, I don't know. I think that's what it's going to depend on personally.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I guess we don't know yet. I guess we'll still figure this out. But yeah, thanks for the question. So we need to actually.
Can I chime in one thing? I'm actually one of the presenters in the
Oh,
next
okay,
session,
okay, go ahead, Dr.
But
Petulla.
this is just for Sarah's sake. So Sarah, I was trained as a molecular biologist in a microbial pathogenesis program. So even with the variants, even if there's a mutation, it's only going to represent a mutation of a very small portion of the spike protein, which means that over the whole length of the protein, your immune system is going to mount a defense against that based upon the vaccine as it exists. So in future iterations of the vaccine, which there will be, I anticipate, just like the flu, getting yearly COVID shots, but they'll engineer the vaccine so that it is targeted to whatever that variant is, but there still is going to be a large section of the protein that will have remained completely unchanged, and that will already be part of our immune memory. So it's going to be like a fine-tuning process, but it's not going to be as if there's going to be a vaccine necessary for something that's completely different. So that's why it's called that term is used as variant. It doesn't mean different. It's just a slight difference.
Great. Thanks for taking that, Dr. Petulla. Okay, so let's transition officially over to the recruiter edition portion of this breakout room. So I will first introduce the two people here. So Dr. Petulla actually kind of almost introduced himself before I got to it, so that's great. So nice job. So this is Dr. Joseph Petulla. He's a professor of natural sciences and currently the director of research at University of Maryland Eastern Shore. His research interests include parasitism of blue crabs, impacts of PFAS on the environment, and nutrient cycling in agricultural drainage ditches. He was the director of the Marine Environmental and Estuary Services, MEES, graduate program from 2012 to 2020, and has directed the Ellis Amp Bridge to Doctorate program since 2018. So Dr. Petulla, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Do I have authority to share screen?
Sure. I guess can I introduce the other person too, and then
sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll introduce both of you, and then each of you will have some time to you can. Actually, hopefully I'll be able to let you share your screen. I'm not sure if I'm set as but we'll figure it out. And also joining us is Miss Sandra Pena Herrera. I hope I got that pretty close. Ms. Pena Herrera serves as a program analyst with the Office of Workforce Management and Administration in the Office of Fossil Energy. This is her 7th year managing the Mickey Leland Energy Fellowship Program. Ms. Pena Herrera earned her BA from the University of Maryland College Park and her MA in Education and Human Development from the George Washington University. She enjoys watching football and spending time outdoors with her 2 children. All right, so thank you, Ms. Pena Herrera, for joining us too. All right,
thank you for having me.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so Dr. Gupta says that I am the co-host, and all right, so let me see if I can. Let's see.
Actually, speakers are the co-host. Speakers should be able to share the screen.
Okay, I think Dr. Petulla was asking if he can share his.
Yes.
Okay.
I think he's been converted into a co-host.
You should be able.
Thank you very much. Do you see that picture of me with my students there?
We do.
Yes, we do.
Okay, excellent. So I'll begin. So I suppose I should say really briefly, I just given a comment on molecular biology a few moments ago. And for the students, it may have sounded somewhat strange when I talked about the fact that my research interests were in marine sciences and ecological studies. But I do think that's kind of a little bit of a lesson insofar as think of whatever your education is as a jumping off point. You don't necessarily have to stay in the exact thing that you were trained in. You can adapt your skills to whatever your new interests are. Okay, so that's my little words of wisdom, shall we say, from a professor. So now talking about the program. So here's a picture of me with 4 of the students from the Bridge to Doctorate program, which we took at a conference just prior to COVID-19 breaking out in February of 2020. A year ago at this time, I would have come here recruiting for my Bridge to Doctorate program because I had slots available. Fortunately, I suppose I filled up the entire program, but I'd still wanted to come here and talk to you today anyway for a couple of reasons. So one is I just simply want to talk about our institution, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, because although I don't have an active Bridge to Doctorate program that I can recruit for anymore, we still have other funding mechanisms that I want you to be aware of if you were interested in coming to UMES. So one of them is indicated here. It's called the NOAA LMRCSE, which is it's a long acronym. As you can see there, it's the Living Marine Resources Cooperative Science Center. Its emphasis obviously is on marine sciences and in fishery sciences. So we are actively recruiting students for that program. We also are actively recruiting for our agriculture, food, and resource sciences program at UMES. So that's where a lot of our field work is done, a lot of our ag studies with emphasis on products that go to market. We also have a pharmaceutical sciences graduate program. So if you're a little more interested in biomedical research, so this would be the program where you would get an opportunity to train in molecular biology, biochemistry, those types of sciences. And then finally, I want to point out our toxicology program. So again, very closely linked to the pharmaceutical sciences. Some of the faculty members, in fact, cross over in disciplines in those programs. I know that LSAMP is fundamentally a STEM program. So we do have one I guess what you would kind of think of as a graduate program more in the engineering, mathematical sciences. That would be our Masters of Science in Cybersecurity. By the way, I should mention the previous 4 programs that I talked about do have both PhD level and master's level studies, whereas our cybersecurity program is at a master's level. Okay, so I started off with kind of the bad news, right? I said UMES is not currently accepting students, but I wanted, like I said, I wanted to come here because for 2 reasons. A was I had a commitment to go to your program last year to recruit. It got interrupted. But B, I want to point out something else that I think is valuable. Actually, a couple of things that I think are very valuable. First off, the UMES LSAMP program is part of a consortium, just like your Virginia, North Carolina alliance is. Ours is a little smaller than yours. So we have our campus, which is located on the Delmarva Peninsula in Princess Anne, Maryland. But we also partner with the University of Maryland College Park and the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. The reason I'm mentioning them is because I do want to recruit a bit on behalf of the entire consortium. So they are going to be submitting LSAMP Bridge to Doctorate programs on their campuses as well, where they're going to be, as if it's awarded, seeking to get students to enter into the program in fall of 2022. So what does the Bridge to Doctorate provide? So currently, this is the brochure that I use for my recruiting when we were actively recruiting for students. You get a stipend of $32,000 per year for 2 years, which is a very competitive stipend. You get free tuition. You also, what I failed to mention here, is we cover your student fees. So, you know, those types of activity fees associated with the gym or with your student services center. So all of the fees are covered as well. And then, you know, outside of providing for your graduate education, we also have professional development workshops that we provide in addition. So the University of Maryland College Park program has a very strong emphasis in engineering. So if you're a STEM student who's got that more of that engineering mathematical background, this would be a campus that you would want to go to. Not that you couldn't also do the biomedical sciences or the agricultural sciences, even like our campus does, but this would be a program that would be of, I think, of special interest to you. And this is the contact at College Park, Rosemary Parker. So I'm basically throwing out there contact information for myself, Rosemary, and then one other individual. So the other campus, like I mentioned in our alliance, is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Once again, very strong in engineering, also has all of the other types of biomedical research program opportunities as well. And this is the individual you would contact who is the lead at UMBC. So this is Sunji Jangha. So the one thing I want to say, so in closing, so this is the end of my presentation of what we're all about. But this is one thing I want to emphasize for all LSAMP students. You've got a great opportunity as an undergrad to go really just about anywhere in the country you want. Now, I know that the alliances have a tendency to want to recruit within the alliance because many times we have our own Bridge to Doctorate program. So that certainly is the case with my program. My program right now is mostly students who've graduated from UMES or from the other two members of the alliance. But we do have additional students who've come from outside of the alliance who've come into the program. The point being that the LSAMP Bridge to Doctorate program is designed to be a gateway into your graduate careers. And if you're an undergrad LSAMP student, you can join any active Bridge to Doctorate program across the entire country. The hardest part in all of it is finding the institution that has an active award. So of course you might be interested in a particular college, but if they don't have an active award, you can't join. So that's the only hard part of making those connections. But I want you to just think broadly. You know, if you want to go to California to do your graduate work, there should be a campus out there that has an active program that you could apply to, and that this $32,000 per year stipend would be applying to the first 2 years of your graduate career as well. So I encourage you to look into the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I encourage you, if you're not interested in UMES, to look into the Alliance here in Maryland. But I also encourage you to think broadly. You know, if there's something about some state that you really want to go to, seek it out. And I'll be, you know, of a resource for you too if you're looking for connections anywhere. So that's what I wanted to share with you this morning.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Petula. We
You're welcome.
appreciate the information. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions during this part because we have, I thought two presenters. Actually, I found out we have a third presenter. So anyway, so certainly follow up with the speakers. Hopefully you got their email address, or you can follow up with part of the LSAMP team. I'm sure they can provide you the information. So thank you again, Dr. Tula. So I learned that we have a third speaker from Pfizer, Mr. Terari Howard. I'll let him introduce himself when we get to him. But let me turn over to Ms. Pena Herrera, and she can tell you, share some information with you that she has.
All right, good morning. Thank you for having me here. And I just want to confirm, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Then we're off to a good start. I'm just going to share a little bit with you about the Department of Energy, the office that I'm with, and a few of the internship programs that we have available for students. My program, unfortunately, has already closed for the summer, but I'm still going to share the information because the application will open up again in September for 2022. And then I'm going to go over 2 opportunities that are currently open for you as well. The Department of Energy, let me get there, is a relatively newer agency when you look at when most federal agencies were created. We were created in the late 1970s as a result of the energy crisis at that time. And with the creation of the department, most federal energy activities were brought under one umbrella. Over the course of our history, our emphasis and focus has shifted with the times. When we were created in the 70s, we were focused on energy development and regulation. That shifted in the 80s to nuclear weapons research, development, and production. And currently, we are very much focused on national security and prosperity.
Ms. Pena Herrera, I think we lost your screen and you're muted now. So maybe there was a connection issue. Are you still there?
I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Great. Okay. You have to share. I don't know. That was strange. Okay. Now you're back. All right. Great.
I'll keep going. Our goal is to achieve a net zero carbon emissions by 2050. There is no greater challenge facing our nation and our planet than the climate crisis. A little bit about some of the offices that make up the Department of Energy. We are comprised of several different units that touch upon all the different aspects of energy, whether you're interested in renewable energy, nuclear energy, fossil fuels, and everything in between, the policy side, the administration side. There are a lot of different opportunities to be involved with our department. We also have a network of 17 national labs across the country, and this is where all
Okay, I guess it happened again. Are you still there? I'll give you a second, see if you come back.
I don't think I'm going to share my screen. I think it's the sharing of the screen
maybe
cutting it out.
Okay, all right.
But hopefully you got to see the map of the 17 national labs that make up our department. And as I was saying, this is where all of the great things happen within our organization. This is where the science gets done. And this is where a lot of our students go for the various opportunities, as well as our headquarters here in the Washington, D.C. area and some of our other technical sites. As I mentioned earlier, I'm with the Office of Fossil Energy, which ensures that we can continue to rely on traditional sources of energy. We are comprised of 4 different units that look at our oil and natural gas landscape, clean coal and carbon management, as well as the Strategic Petroleum Reserves, which houses the largest stockpile of government-owned oil. And finally, we have one of the national labs that conducts research focused on fossil fuels, which is the National Energy Technology Lab. And this lab conducts cutting-edge research and development focused on efficient energy use and clean energy production from our nation's domestic fossil fuels. I keep turning the slides, but there's no slides to turn. I do want to share about the program that I manage, which is the Mickey Leland Energy Fellowship Program. It is a 10-week summer research program exclusive to STEM students. So if you're at the undergraduate and you move on to the graduate level, you would still be able to apply for this program. All of our students receive a one-to-one mentorship with a senior scientist or engineer within the department. And we provide you with hands-on research experience that will allow you to apply theory to practice in one of our sites. The goal of the program, one of the goals of the program, is to really increase your confidence in conducting this type of research in one of our sites, along with other scientists and engineers that are at the labs, and promote critical thinking and problem solving, as well as increase communication skills. But before I go on a little bit more about the program, I do want to share a little bit about who this program is named after, which is George Thomas Mickey Leland. He was a legislator, a congressman from Houston, Texas, who served for about a decade and was a very strong advocate on hunger, public health, and cultural diversity issues. He passed away in the late 1980s serving on one of his missions. And in 2000, the Energy Secretary at the time wanted to recognize his work and his accomplishments by renaming one of the Department of Energy's programs in his honor. So that is who the program is named after. Our students have the opportunity to work on a wealth of different applications, whether it be carbon capture, carbon storage and sequestration, decarbonization, gasification systems, working with turbines, strategic planning, or fuel cells. It's pretty much the gamut in terms of what you could be doing within this program. I mentioned that you do have to be a current student at the undergraduate or graduate level in order to apply. And the application for summer 2022 will open in September. All of our students, for any program for most of our programs within the Department of Energy, we do provide a stipend. And for this one in particular, it starts at $650 per week for undergraduate students. For this year, we are going virtual, so we are not providing travel or a housing subsidy, which we would normally do if you're relocating, but we are providing a technology subsidy. And should we continue to offer virtual opportunities in the future, the technology subsidy is really intended to offset any costs associated with participating in an internship program online. If you wanted to establish or upgrade your internet speed, needed some software, we hope that this would help offset some of those costs. Some other programs I want to review with you are the Minority Educational Student Partnership Program, also known as MESEP. Their application is currently open, and if I can, I'm going to go ahead. Thankfully, I have it open here. I'm going to put in the chat my chat's disabled. If it becomes enabled again, I'll put in the chat the link for this program, because the application deadline is March 31st, which is, I believe, on Wednesday. And so I would still encourage you to take the time to review the information and submit the application. They do place students across the DOE network, which includes the laboratories as well as headquarters. And again, that application is March 31st. And then we also have the DOE Scholars Program. Their Office of Economic Impact and Diversity currently has an opportunity. It's more policy related, but if you're looking at energy justice, if that's of interest to you, this is a great opportunity to receive experience in that area. I do want to close by reiterating what was said by the previous presenter about adapting your skills to a new interest and really being at a point in your time, being a current undergraduate student and being able to take that and go in any direction. And that is the value of these internships, is that it opens the doors of not only being able to get into a certain organization, but also into a certain field. There are fields out there that you may not even be thinking of, you don't even know that exist. And through these experiences, they are put on your radar and they become new options. And so with more options, you have more opportunity. I always say there's no such thing as a bad internship. Even if you decide that what you spent your summer doing was a total waste of time and you didn't like it, at least you know now as a student, and you can make whatever changes you need to make before you graduate to shift and change gears if that's what you need to do. But it's good to find out that earlier in your education, to be able to make those changes as you continue through your education, as you seek those advanced degrees down the line. You have a more focus of what you want to do.
All right, great. Thank you, Ms. Pena-Herrera. We appreciate the information. All right,
Not a
so
problem.
yeah, thank you. So we do have one more presenter. I know we don't have much time left. Maybe, I don't know if they can add a little time, 5 extra minutes for us. But anyway, so I will turn over to Mr. Terari Howard from Pfizer. Are you here? I got a message that he was here. Mr. Howard, let me check to see if he's in the participants list here.
While that's happening, is it possible to have my chat enabled? I would like to put in my email address, and I want to make myself available to review resumes. I always make myself available to review resumes from a federal perspective, since they're different than what is usually the guidance that you usually receive is more for the corporate sector. And so I'm definitely available to you to review from a federal perspective.
Okay, so so my chat is disabled too, so I don't know. Is there anybody here who has the power to do that as a host or co-host? I'm looking through the.
I'm the host.
Okay.
I'm not sure why the chat isn't working. I've been trying to get it back working.
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
if it's a breakout room situation. If not, then try
possibly
chat once we get back in the main.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Howard, are you here? I was looking through the list here. So I see him listed on the participants list, so I will give him a chance to. So, Miss Elmore, you said you were the co-host. Is there a way for Miss Pena-Herrera to get information to you to get to everybody, or?
Sure, if you would like, you can send it to me and I can put it in the chat for everyone.
Okay, like by email, or okay. Okay, so let me submit. Mr. Howard, are you here?
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, I'm not sure how much time we have left here. If they'll let us go over a little bit or not, but yeah, go ahead.
Can you remind me again what you would like me to say and all? Sorry.
Oh, just briefly where you're from and then kind of whatever kind of opportunities that maybe Pfizer has for our students.
Yeah, so hey everyone, so I'm Terari Howard and I work for Pfizer. You guys have probably heard our name a lot just because of the COVID-19 vaccine, but we are more than the COVID-19 vaccine. I specifically am a change agent with the group called the Global Black Community. And part of our recent engagement was around having a career panel where we just kind of talk through navigating into the space of biotech, which is where specifically we sit to produce vaccines and rare disease select gene therapeutics to cure things like hemophilia. There's Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which are like degenerative diseases. And there's the importance for us is to educate people of color around the industry that exists there and the opportunities. So we have a lot of things like internships. That portal opens and closes around January and then closes in March of every year. And then there's also what's known as rotational development programs. Those positions typically get posted in the July-August timeframe, and they are a 2-year rotation specifically meant to take you through different areas within Pfizer on a 6-month rotation. It is a full-time role, and that's something that is also out there. But the important thing I tell you, not just with Pfizer, but all your other big companies like Merck, GSK, all those, is it's important for you to join these student chapters and network early on, because that's really going to give you the leverage and the ability to know whether or not a role that you're interested in or you're not interested in, you kind of figure that out. Because you hear time and time again, somebody has a major, but they are not directly working in that field, and that's okay. That's pretty normal. So that will be my encouragement to all the students on this call, is just to definitely be persistent and don't be afraid to ask questions at all. But you can find me on LinkedIn and I'll be sure to respond. I'm in the middle of a lot of deployments right now, but I'll definitely get back with you. But thanks.
All right, great. Thanks, Mr. Howard. Appreciate it. And I'm sure for all the speakers, I would assume that much of this information is also available on the websites, the Pfizer website, Department of Energy website, University of Maryland Eastern Shore website. So certainly you can go investigate that information too. And hopefully the speakers' contact information will be shared with everybody too through the LSAMP folks. So, all right, well, we're 10:31. I guess we did pretty well getting done almost on time. So thank you all again for joining, and especially the speakers and everybody else who joined. So thank you all. Stay safe and have a great day.
Of the LSAMP program, joining us are 5. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I am the interim chair of the Computer Science and Engineering Department at Johnson C. Smith University. I also am the academic advisor of all the students in the department. So today I'm going to introduce 5 alumni from the LSAMP. One of this alumni actually is not present. She sent an email just this morning, not feeling well, but I think she said that she might be around, but she will not be able to answer the questions. So we wish her well. The 5 students or the alumni from the LSAMP are Shiran Anderson, David Gonzalez Medrano, Brianna James, Corey Johnson, and Bernard Smith. And actually 6 of them, Aliyah Wofford as well is joining us. Okay, Bernard Smith is actually one of my students, and I'm very glad to see him here again. Let me first read the bios for the students. So Shiran Anderson began taking classes at Piedmont, Virginia Community College to supplement his high school education, completing his associate's degree in science before transferring to Virginia Tech to complete his bachelor of science in microbiology. He has since graduated and began work on his PhD in microbiology at Iowa State University, where he studies the microbiome of the rumen epithelial wall. He is working toward a federal career in biosecurity and has experience finding undergraduate research opportunities in both university and government environments. David Gonzalez Medrano is a PhD candidate in electrical engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. He obtained his bachelor's in electrical engineering at Old Dominion University in 2019. During his undergraduate years, he gained experience in both industry and academia, ranging from working for Dominion Energy's Surrey Nuclear Power Station, Huntington Ingalls Industries, and undergraduate research at the University of Virginia, Norfolk State University, and Old Dominion University. Currently, David works in a class of 100 clean room, which probably he'll explain to us, where he fabricates and characterizes the world's first programmable microscopic robots in Mark Miskin's nanorobotics group at the University of Pennsylvania, where he hopes to turn his graduate research into a startup on nanoscale robotics for biomedical applications. Brianna James, undergraduate from University of Virginia School of Engineering and Applied Science in 2015, with a degree in engineering science and a concentration in material science, engineering, and biology. Afterwards, she participated in the post-baccalaureate research education program at Virginia Commonwealth University and is currently finishing her 5th year as a PhD candidate in VCU's biochemistry and molecular biology department. Corey Johnson attended Johnson C. Smith University for his bachelor's degree in chemistry, where he participated in the LSAMP program under the supervision of Dr. Sunil Gupta. His graduate studies occurred at Brandeis and Jackson State Universities in the fields of medical and supra While attending JCSU, he led the school as the Mr. Johnson C. Smith University at 20. Some of the organizations he participated in while on campus was LSAMP, Charlotte's Web, STARS Computing Corps, and the National Society for Black Engineers. Above all, Bernard is a proud member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Bernard is currently an engineer at Microsoft in Dallas, Texas. His future plan is to continue his education and attain an MBA in IT management. His goal is to champion people to reach beyond the constraints they know and embrace technology and self-development for continuous innovation. Ms. Alia Wooford hails from Rural Hall, North Carolina. She graduated from Elizabeth City State University, double majoring in biology and education. Currently, she is attending Howard University, completing her master's in atmospheric science. Her research interests are in paleoclimatology, astrobiology, and atmospheric modeling. So, I'm going to present some questions to the panelists, and I'm hoping also there will be some questions from the guests as well and from the students. So I'll pose this question to all the panelists, all the alumni that I've just read their names, and start alphabetically like I did with Anderson and then Gonzalez Medrano, and then go on. So we have the first question, and that would be, how did you arrive where you are with special emphasis on LSAMP? How did it help you out and get to your goal? And start with Sharon Anderson.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for that introduction. And yeah, so as I had written in my bio, I got started with LSAMP by taking community college courses to supplement my high school education. So I had been homeschooled all the way previously before that. And so Piedmont, Virginia Community College really offered like a really good springboard to get my educational career going in, post-secondary. And so during my time there at Piedmont, Virginia Community College, I was able to kind of identify what field I was interested in. That's where I took my first microbiology course and got started. And I was also able to, one of my professors there really helped me kind of see that graduate school could be a possibility for me and kind of lay out a roadmap to get there. And I was able to participate in some undergrad research there as well. So it's just a really excellent launching platform to get where I am today, which is, yeah, I'm working on my, I'm in my third year of my PhD program right now.
That's a good introduction, Kyron. I appreciate the introduction as well, Ahmed, and I'm definitely glad to be here. For me, how did I get to where I am? I would say, ever since like middle school and even before then, I knew I really liked math and science, and I wanted to get into something related to that. So engineering just kind of, I tried it out in high school, took a couple like tech classes in high school, and I really enjoyed that. And so I decided to pursue that for my bachelor's. My freshman year, I got my first internship with Dominion Energy. And I really enjoyed that experience, and I'm definitely glad I had it. But that's when I kind of realized that if you're going to go straight from a bachelor's to work into the industry, you're not going to be doing real engineering for the first 5 to 10 years. You're going to be doing what the senior engineer doesn't want to do. And it's typically like paper pushing or, like working on Excel. It's not as fun. So from there, I kind of thought, well, why don't I try doing a little bit of research and seeing if that's something I enjoy. And I started just, knocking on professors' doors at my undergrad institution. And that's how I got my first research experience working for a professor at OU. And from there, he told me that if I actually want to go and pursue REU at a graduate program at a prestigious institution, I have to go and get an REU somewhere. So thankfully that was LSAMP, and that was probably the single most important thing I did in my undergraduate career, just in terms of like the research I got to do. It was very interesting working in a chemistry lab. But most importantly, I think the connections that I got from there are probably the thing that got me to where I really am now. So at the end of the summer, we went to Hartford, Connecticut to do it was like the LSAMP national like conference. And at the end of the third day, they had like a graduate school like fair where they had a bunch of representatives from different universities, basically recruiting people to come and apply for their graduate programs. That's how I met someone that works at the University of Pennsylvania, and we kind of started a relationship through email. And that's actually what got me to, get my application fee waived, get a good recommendation letter from people in my undergrad institution, but also the professor I worked for at UVA, which is really good to have that, those reference letters come from various institutions to show that, you've done a lot in your undergrad degree. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, David. We have Corey Johnson next.
Okay. So how LSAM got me to where I am now. So originally when I went to school, when I went to college, when I arrived at Johnson C. Smith University, I wanted to be a pharmacist. And after taking some biology classes, I decided that it really wasn't the pathway for me. And after taking a course with Dr. Russell, I decided that I had a strong interest in making drugs and not, I guess, being a pharmacist. And so from there, I was invited to do research in Dr. Russell's lab. And upon doing research in this lab, went to several conferences and things like that, developed an even stronger interest in chemistry, got invited to Brandeis for a summer research program, and then ended up going there for my master's degree after graduation. And after that, I spent some time, teaching courses at a university in my hometown, and eventually made it to Jackson State University, where I completed my doctoral studies in supermolecular chemistry. And now I'm a postdoc at UNC Asheville. I'm doing cancer drug discovery. But well, to top it off, if it wasn't for that opportunity that LSAM gave me to initially do research, I probably wouldn't be where I am today.
Thank you very much, Corey. I like the mountains behind you, this North Carolina mountains.
Yeah, Asheville is deep in the mountains.
Right, beautiful. Next, we have Bernard Smith. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you, Dr. Fight, for the introduction. And I just appreciate LSAMP having this retreat here. It's definitely an honor to be a part of this panel, and definitely means a lot. It's definitely going to make my day. First, I want to say thank you, Dr. Fight. Thank you, Dr. Hunt, Dr. Gupta, and Maddie Marshall as well. Because without LSAMP, I would have never kind of understood like the community effort that it took to get where I'm at today. When I first came to Smith, of course I wanted, I wanted to be in STEM, and I didn't really, I've taken Dr. Fight classes my freshman year, but I was like, I don't know, this is a thing for me. It's kind of tough to learn this stuff. But I was able to kind of network with my student body, I should say, around the campus. And I found out that they was a part of this Lewis Stokes and analysis for minority participation, which is LSAMP. And they were saying, hey, we meet here on, every week, and we do research. We have a community effort where we help each other with homework. And also we get a chance to like travel and see like different parts of North Carolina or Virginia or however, right? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, if I really want to be somebody in the STEM field, if I want to get a research opportunity, because it, you know, first of all, it pays you to do research, right? If I wanted to get internships, if I wanted to put myself in a better position, I best to get around people who had the same like-minded approach to, you know, being better or wanting better for themselves. So I thank Alessandra for opening those doors because I would have never, you know, got to Microsoft, right, without people like one of the folks that I mentioned earlier pouring into me and saying, hey, you can do this. Hey, these are opportunities that you can be a part of. Hey, you should push yourself to do research or push yourself to get internships. And then also just that exposure to seeing something different. When I grew up in Florida and I went to Smith, I only been from Florida, of course, through like Georgia and South Carolina to get to Charlotte, but I never been outside of, you know, those walls, I should say. And Alexander was able to show me, you know, there's more to life. There's more opportunities out there than what's confined in these walls at John C. Smith or in Charlotte. So the LSAMP program just supported my knowledge, supported my my networking enhancement, right? And you know, being around those student bodies, I was able to get a lot of motivation from people who were studying to be doctors, right? And getting their masters. I was like, man, where I come from, there was nobody was talking like that. Nobody was talking about, you know, being better in school, right? And with the student body, being around those like-minded individuals, you know, I was able to develop innovative skills, critical thinking skills, and also just retention, right? LSAMP played a big role in helping us, you know, staying positive and staying happy and staying just hungry for more. So, and especially, you know, for a group of students who were underrepresented, right? At a historically Black college, right? And just having that support just meant so much to me. And I don't think I would have got that support without being a part of LSAMP helping me, right, to get to where I am today at a Microsoft and to be able to come back and say, hey, let's pay it forward because somebody else had to reach their hand down and say, hey, be a part of this. And that's the reason why I'm here. So I just really thank LSAMP for providing that that pathway for success for me.
Thank you, Bernard. Aliyah Wooford, am I spelling this right?
Yes,
Pronouncing
yes,
it right?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm Aaliyah Wofford. I went to Elizabeth City State University. Shouts out to the Vikings. So I would say that LSAMP definitely really played a huge role in where it got me today. I would say that my track, I would describe it as very interdisciplinary. When I first came into my institution, I was a physics major, but unfortunately my institution could not support my major after a while. So I transitioned into biology, and I then went, I did my research a lot with LSAMP through biology. And from that, from me knowing that my heart was really set on being an astronomer, I had really good and supportive mentors in my LSAMP network, as well as in my institutions, that they helped me to find avenues to get me to where I am today. And so for me, like, you know, I did enjoy my biology, but I was like, how can I connect the dots to still do biology? Because I knew I was good at it, but I also had that passion to look at stars and play with telescopes and data. So for me, I was able to sit down and have conversations with my advisors, and they helped to navigate me to different opportunities. And so one of the biggest opportunities that I got to do was that I was able to go to UVA, and I was able to make connections there. So I went on my first internship back in 2015, I believe. Oh, it's been a while, 2015. And I did a really cool experiment working in the biology department. But while I was there, I met some of my mentors at NRAO, the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Charlottesville. And they actually, at that time, when I was doing it, they didn't have, they did like an every other year type of cycle. So they offered internships but they didn't offer it that particular summer. And so I had expressed to my LSAMP mentors, Christian, and everyone that I really would love to do this again. And, you know, I really would like to learn more about the astronomy aspects. And so fortunate would have it that the next year, NREO offered an opportunity for me to go there. And that is where I started my track into this astrobiology journey that I'm in now. And without LSIMP giving me that opportunity, I don't think that I would have been able to navigate. And then having that support system that they understood that while we want you to be a biologist, while we knew that this is what that you're really good at, we understand that they were responsible enough and they cared enough about my passions to let me go and to explore and have continued to support me to this day. So I went to NREO, I got more experience, and I continued to stick with them, and have built more networks. And from there, because of my internships and me making the connections at NREO through LSAMP, I was able to then, after I graduated from Mississippi State with my biology degree, I had research experience in astronomy as well as in biology. And I was then able to go to NASA Goddard in Maryland. And I started working on atmospheric modeling and atmospheric modeling and astrobiology. So, and that was an awesome experience. And I do want to say this, that I know that while we're in, some of you guys are in your undergraduate phase, I want to let you know that it is okay to take a gap year. It's okay to take time and explore and find your passions and nurture those passions. And so for me, you know, like when I came out of undergraduate, I was like, yes, I'm going to graduate school, you know, the whole nine. I think that we all get excited when we think about going to our PhDs and going on to those bigger and greater things. But it's also good to take time to come back, to take a step back and really think to yourself and niche to yourself, what is it that I'm really passionate about, you know? And so having that opportunity to go to NASA and make new connections and learn new sciences, I was able to not just say, well, I'm interested in studying the stars, but now I can do atmospheric modeling and I can apply those principles to other aspects of, like, you know, planets beyond. So I sit in my dream was to sit in my new dreams now, I should say, are just that I get to think about all the possibilities and beyond. And I have to thank LSAMP for that. And so now after that gap year, I was able to really articulate what I really wanted to do. And that's how I ended up at Howard University working on my master's in atmospheric sciences, because I knew that I had the background in biology, but I wanted to make sure that I was getting the specialized coursework that I needed from that. So that's why I chose atmospheric science, because I was like, how can you do atmospheric modeling if you don't understand the atmosphere? So I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And then now I'm fast forward, you know, years and years after 2015, I'm now working on my master's. I recently got accepted to George Mason for their climate dynamics program for the PhD. So I will be starting that in the fall. And all of that just from my connections and having the professors and mentors that cared enough about me to know that to nurture my passions. So in a nutshell, I would say definitely always nurture your passions and find out what you truly want to do. And that if it takes you longer to, like, you know, take that gap year to find out what you're doing, or to, you know, course recovery, you know, things like that, it's okay to do that, and that you have one life. So that's really all.
Thank you very much, Alia. Well, that was great advice. Thanks a lot. The other questions I have is, how did you find and secure undergraduate research or internships opportunities, if you had any, while you were undergraduate? So I'll start with Sharon Anderson.
Yeah, so that, I think the first undergraduate research experience that I had was actually just directly through Piedmont Community College. They have a really interesting program there where kind of the last semester of your Associates of Science degree, you generally can get sort of paired up with one of the professors there, and they give you a very small amount of funding. Yeah, it's a community college, so they don't have, you know, huge piles of cash around. But they'll give you a few $100s for, you know, you can get experimental reagents and whatnot, and you're really partnered with a professor there, and they do a lot of sort of mentoring and helping you design your own experiment and run through that process of, you know, thinking all the way through from conception to results and presenting those results. So that was kind of my first experience with undergraduate research, and I think that was a really good starting point. But from there, I was able to find, I participated in the Biomap REU through Iowa State University. And that is a NSF funded REU. And so for any undergrads in the audience who might be thinking about trying to find these opportunities, the NSF has a really helpful website, which you can find just by Googling NSF REUs. And that will have a huge list by all kinds of disciplines and topics, and I think you can also search by location as well. And these are research opportunities that are really geared towards getting undergrads research experiences, especially if they might not have those opportunities at their own universities. And they also don't generally have an expectation that you'll be coming into it with a lot of experience. So they're really good places to get your start in undergrad research. And then the final undergrad research experience that I had before coming to grad school was actually through a Army educational outreach program. So I took part in the College Qualified Leaders internship that they had. And so this was working on a Army base out in Maryland. And this was where I kind of got my start in biosecurity, which is the field that I'm trying to get into. But the main reason that I want to bring that up is because there are a lot of opportunities through, I know the Army has a bunch, the Navy has a bunch, the Department of Defense, as some of you may have heard earlier in one of the last presentations, the Department of Energy has a ton of internships that you can potentially get. The NIH, really any agency that you can think of that is doing interesting work in a STEM field, it's likely that they have some kind of undergraduate opportunities. And so just taking a look through their websites can be really helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sean. That's a lot of actually research for undergraduate students. Usually students get involved in one or two, but you've packed your 4 years very well. Yeah.
I think I got lucky
there. David?
Yeah, I would say your best bet for getting, if you just want to start doing research right away, is just by emailing professors, knocking on their doors, like at your home institution. Professors are eager to have a student come in and, kind of learn about their field. They're excited to talk about the research they are doing. So I would say that's probably the easiest route to get there. Alternatively, if you want to get into the industry, I think the career fairs at the undergrad institution, I think that's probably the best resource available there is out there. Like, you should definitely be going to the career fair every year as an undergrad. And especially if you show up like eager to learn, eager to work for a company, you look well dressed, and you show emotion. Those recruiters are likely to get you to join their company. And I think another important thing to note is coming straight from finishing your second year of your undergrad curriculum and trying to go work for like SpaceX or Google, like I don't know. I don't think it's as realistic of a goal, but I do think scaling there is definitely easy to do. The easiest way to start is by doing research with a professor. From there, now you actually have experience, so you can go to your career fair, get a job at a good mid-sized company. Now you have that industry experience and that research experience. From there, if you apply to those top tier like industry positions, then you're much more likely to get those kind of jobs, because now you actually have the the experience and the drive that you've actually gone out and done all these different things. You're much more likely to get these kind of things. So scalability is definitely something that applies to a lot of things out there, like businesses and models, but also yourself. You gotta little continuous steps in the positive direction are definitely the best way to go about that.
Well said, David. Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Corey Johnson.
How to get engaged in undergraduate research, right?
Undergraduate research, any internships you did, how did you get them? How was your experience in them?
Okay, well, the way I got started was in pretty traditional method. I was taking my sophomore organic chemistry course, and Dr. Russell came up to me and said, well, find a place to stay because you're going to be working with me. And so that's how I got started. And so in collaboration with, so that was a collaboration with Dr. Gupta, and that's how I got started in LSAMP. But my later research in my undergraduate career came from, as mentioned before, searching NSF and NIH and different university websites and communicating with different professors. And from that, I came across Liz Hedstrom at Brandeis University, who invited me there to do a summer REU program. And eventually she invited me back for graduate school. And yeah, so that was that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Corey. Bernard?
Yes, I think David, Corey, Dr. Corey, right? They all kind of saying the same thing, right? Like, and I would say the same. Like, talking to your professors is definitely the first like step to take and find out what they're interested in, what they're doing, and how you can help, right? Sometimes, like you said, like they mentioned, like your professors may have these research opportunities that you can be a part of, and that's actually how I got my research opportunity. I didn't know where to start, so I was like, well, the first thing I would start with is the people that I come to class and learn from every single day. So I started my professors. Dr. Amin, when I was at John C. Smith, had a lot of research opportunities, and I didn't know, right? I had to speak with her and almost treat kind of like talking to her almost like an interview, like, hey, how can I help? You know, what are you doing today? Like, what are you doing? What do you do on your weekends? What do you do in the summer? Right? What are some things that I could be a part of, because I want to grow my knowledge in my area? And that's how I started, right? Just networking with my professors. If you're a little too afraid to network with professors, then start with your student body, right? You have other people that are in your same major, right? That could be like juniors and seniors that are doing research for, you know, such and such university or companies, or just a one-off project. Talk with these students, right, in your classroom, and be open to learning from them, right? We always say, like, we always preach at Microsoft a growth mindset. And so you want to just don't limit yourself in a box, right? If one way doesn't work, talking to your professors, or you're not ready to take that step, talk to your peers, right? Find out what research opportunities and how they can help you, give you advice, or where they went to get help or get that research opportunity. And then lastly, just apply everywhere, right? If you just, hey, I don't want to talk to my peers, I don't want to talk to professors, just apply everywhere that you can, and just make sure it's a topic that you're most interested in, and that you want to actually work with, right? And want to do research on, and just, you know, of course, pray that you definitely get selected to do research for that said institution, right? Or that said project that you're looking for. As far as internships, I took the same approach. Networking with my professors and network with my student body. When I was in LSAMP, I had a guy, a peer named Linwood, who was on a hunt for internships, right? When you're in the computer engineering, it's good to do research if you want to go to a university, you know, post in college, but if you want to get a job, right, a career, these jobs gonna be looking for like internships. So understanding, like, okay, these people, you know, I kind of, what's the benchmark, right? What's the benchmark in this LSAMP program? What are other people doing that in the same major? And what opportunities are they having presented to themselves? And if I see that, I'm going to talk to this person because they set the benchmark. Hey, they're doing an internship this summer. They're doing an internship that summer. They're doing a co-op, right? So networking with my peers helped me land an internship, because I got a chance to understand what they're doing. I said, okay, how can I apply for the same thing that you was a part of? And then I eventually got my research opportunity at Smith, and eventually got my internship opportunity at Smith by just opening my mouth and asking people, you know, how could I, you know, do the same thing that they're doing, if not more.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you. Alia Wofford.
Hi
Hi there. Yeah. So for me, when I started my undergraduate research, I was already doing research at my institution. So I was part of LSIMP. They call it there. It's the art program. So we get paired with a mentor and we do research with them throughout the year. And then when I did my in the summertime, what I did is I applied to the LSIMP to a LSIMP REU, and I went to UVA, and that's where I did my I did a biology internship there that was specializing in monkey flowers, so looking at seasonings and times. And as I mentioned before, like I was initially on like a biology track, but I knew that I was still very much so interested in astronomy. So I went to while I was on that internship, I actually went and spoke with Kristen, and they were able to arrange for me to meet with NRAO, and they have like a site that's a little bit off campus there. And so I got to tour the facility there, and I also got to have lunch with the students that were working there already. And I sort of built my connections there just to sort of like, just to sort of meet everyone. And then the following year I reapplied to LSAMP again, and I was able to get that astronomy internship specifically. So that was really fun. And when I did that, my research there, I did was initially looking at starburst galaxies, so galaxies that have a lot of star formation occurring. And that was my first astronomy project. That was my first real exposure to astronomy in that regard. And that that was how I pretty much sought out my internships and just making those connections. And being that was my first astronomy one, I felt like when I was looking back on the application, when I was explaining what I wanted to do, I didn't have like a niche specifically that I was doing. So I took on the Galaxy project, and I was like, okay, this is cool, but it's not necessarily like what I wanted to do. As I got more involved and I learned about all the more varieties of what they have in astronomy. And then when I was like, on Google, I found out there was astrobiology. So I was like, oh, let's do this. So let's try to connect the dots. So having those mentors, being able to, nurture my passions even more, I was able to do another internship again at NREO, but this time more specialized in the astrobiology field. And in that project, I was looking at the magnetosphere. I was looking at a red dwarf, or like another sun. And essentially I was looking at how that space weather could impact planets. And for me, being that I'm a big sci-fi nerd, I enjoy, imagining all the possibilities. So that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. Let's keep going. Let's do this. And from there, my mentor that year particularly, which again, I think that everybody has said it, but please keep in touch with your mentors. Always, like, you don't like going through I can't say that I would my mental space and my mindset was really premised on keeping those connections, and that they were very much so, they were always like, making sure I was okay. And that being that they already have their PhDs, they've served as like, giving me those words of wisdom, encouragement that I needed. But on the segue of that, from that internship, she had that collaboration was with NASA Goddard. And so we had to go up there to present to their astrobiology sector. And I had told her that I was interested in like doing the modeling aspects, and I was interested in seeing how can we do the application aspect. And my mentor, she actually reached out earlier ahead of time to somebody in that sector. And I actually she was able to arrange a meeting for me. And so I presented the research with her, and cooperatively when we did it. And then after that, immediately I went and met with my advisors there at Goddard. And the first day they were like, are you going to graduate school anytime soon? I said, I've applied, but yeah, I told them at the time I've applied, but I was like, what do you have? Okay. So they were just kind of like, well, if you do change your mind, we have positions open and we want you. And so I didn't unfortunately get into that graduate school that I applied to. And I, immediately hit them up and was like, hi, do you remember me? Is that offer still on the table? And immediately they set up a meeting the next day, and they were like, hi, so we're going to start you in March. This is what you're doing. And I was like, okay, well, I moved from North Carolina to Maryland, Mom. See you later. And that was just kind of how mine was very much so on networking and just meeting those people. And from there, I just kept going to different internships.
Thank you, Alia. I like your passion and enthusiasm about science in your studies. That's really wonderful. Thank you. Actually, Brianna James, very kind of her, shared with us in the chat some resources, a website link for some internships. So even though she couldn't really join us with her voice, she's joining us with her messages. Thank you very much, Brianna. My next question would be, since I've heard the word mentorship, so how did mentorship in itself, what was the role of it in your STEM education? You know, your mentors, and how did they help you out in achieving your goals, and how much did they help? So we'll start again with Chiron Anderson.
Yeah, so I think mentors are, they're very helpful in terms of, it's always good to have somebody to be able to ask questions and to get support from. But I think one of the most important roles they can play is opening your mind to possibilities that, you know, weren't even on your radar at all. So, you know, for me, one of the really key moments in my sort of education and career was just, you know, when I was working on that undergraduate research project in community college, my professor that I was working with, Dr. Quark, you know, ended up just sitting me down and saying, you know, are you thinking about going to grad school? You know, have you thought about doing a research career long term? And, you know, at the time, I didn't have the confidence or the experience to really think of that as an option for myself. But, you know, that conversation really made it clear that this is something that could be open to me, and, you know, kind of walking through that roadmap of, okay, what are the steps that you would need to go through to get to a place where you can, you know, apply and be successful for that kind of career track. And so I think those kinds of conversations where, you know, mentors will just open up, you know, possibilities that are just really hard to see otherwise are really important. And that was definitely the biggest one for me. There are a couple of other important moments, but yeah.
Thank you, Sharon. David?
I couldn't have said that better myself. I think a mentor, they've gone through everything you've already have gone through and more, you know, so it really helps out in that, you know, as an undergrad, it can be easy to get overwhelmed or kind of like lose track of like your sights when you know, after a really rough semester or something like that. And they see, you know, they've seen how the story plays out, you know, for themselves and for all the other students they've had. And at the end, it's like everything like turns out fine. Like, so I think having a mentor is great to just kind of keep you like focused and just, you know, calm, but also to tell you all the different opportunities that you have available to you. I think a lot of people just come into college thinking like, I'm just gonna study, get a job, but there is so much out there than that. You know, you could go pursue graduate education, you can go and form a startup, and typically there's a lot of like help and funding available through the universities for you to go and do whatever it is that you want to go and do in your future. So I think being aware of the fact that there are a lot of resources available to you out there that most of the time students don't use or aren't even aware of is definitely very helpful for that. I would say in a nutshell, just it allows you to see further out there and to consider what opportunities you have available to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. We have, so Dr. Corey Johnson. I'm sure you're going to mention Dr. Russell as one of their mentors, but so tell us more about him or any other one.
Oh, well, so my undergraduate career, of course, my mentor was Dr. Russell. And then I had Dr. Gupta also. And what made them great mentors is that they had a way of, you know, instilling confidence in me. And also, like David said, they talked about their experiences and things like that, which taught me the ins and outs of research and how to put together a great presentation and things of that sort. And they really helped me get to where I am now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Corey. Bernard Smith.
Yep, and I piggyback just Johnson C. Smith, the faculty, the staff, even the student bodies. I leverage everybody I could, right, as a mentor. I needed mentoring for coaching, I needed mentor for training, I needed mentoring for support, I needed mentoring for success. And each mentor played a role, I would say, in helping me discover my abilities, my interests, and my innermost passions at Johnson C. Smith University, and still to this day. So I would say, you definitely need those mentors to provide that emotional and that instrumental support that you will need to achieve a college degree, a research opportunity, an internship, or a job, right, or career going forward. And you might even need a mentor to help you pass that class that you're taking right now. So you're gonna need leadership in your classroom, you're gonna need leadership in your lab, right? You're gonna need those mentors in your lab as well. And then you just need a mentor to help you with that, that goal setting, right? Goal setting, exposing you to your things that you have as career aspirations, things that you want to achieve, networking, right? Because when you become a mentor, like you become a mentee from a Dr. Fight or Maddie Marshall, right? And you have these questions, right? They can expose you to other well-known people or respected people in that field, right? Or that community that can also help you find internships, help you find research opportunities, help you find jobs, and just help you kind of broaden your scope of a little bit there with those resources that you will need. And you may even need people to help you, like Dr. Corey said, hey, I need help with interviewing skills. I need help with this PowerPoint that I have, right? I need this first hand advice on, on this next thing, right? So mentorship is definitely a valuable thing. And I think it could sometimes get undervalued how much impact mentorship has on definitely when you're in college, and you should always look for meaningful mentor relationships as in your undergrad and going forward in graduates and also in the real world.
Absolutely. Well said, Bernard. Thank you. Alia Wofford.
So I co-sign everything that was said already. I think that when I think about mentors, always find someone that advocates for you. In my experience, I've had what for lack of a better term, what we call, not the most effective mentors. And for me, my mentors that I built my network with is that they were the ones that not only did they talk to me about my research and my science, because as a scientist, I don't think that we can say it enough, and especially in COVID, that there are more factors to the successes of your science, that there's so much more to it now. And that for you to mentor somebody, you need to have someone who's okay with you and talk to you about your research, also making sure that you're accountable and making sure that making sure you're okay. And so I don't think that we say it enough as scientists that, it's okay to like sit down and, just have a cup of coffee and just talk about life and talk about those little tidbits. Like I can remember fondly of some of the mentors' conversations that that we didn't talk about any of the science. They just literally sat down and they told me about, be prompt, be on time, be present, enjoy the interactions that you make. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to fail. And that, I know that in the science field, we don't always feel like that there's always that pressure and that cutthroat, but it's just good to always make sure that you have someone who is willing to sit down to you and talk to you about those other little external factors that really do make a difference in how you conduct yourself in this world, as far as like, not just in the science space, but in general. So that was something that's really important with my mentors, and that they were always there to sort of give me those guiding things that I needed, like when I needed it. I can call them, all of them personally, and be like, I just need a pep talk, and that's what they would do, or I need to understand certain things. So make sure that you make personal connections with them and that they suit you, and that they're not just, that they're not just talking at you, but they're giving you good tools that are good for applications in your science, but also to life and how you conduct yourself in the professional world and externally.
Thank you. Thank you, Alia. Thank you very much for all the advice. I have one other question or two. but I thought maybe I'll digress a little and ask you all to get the students maybe engaged and know about what you do. Maybe they learn things that opens the field for them, the horizon or the research. So from their bios, I'm going to find something that I could ask you about. So I'll start with Sharon Anderson. Maybe you could tell us about, like, what's a rumen epithelial wall? What's the microbiome? Get people like interested and know about what you do in these studies.
Sure, absolutely. So my area of research right now at Iowa State University is studying the sort of microbial communities. And so that's bacteria, archaea, viruses, fungi, and so on that are living on the sort of the lining of the rumen. So that'll be in cattle, sheep, goats, all those sorts of animals. And so these communities are really important for fiber degradation in the animal and producing a lot of, I'll try not to get too technical, but short chain fatty acids, which are the primary source of energy for these animals. And because they are sort of right there on the barrier, so the sort of transition between that inner space and the circulatory system, there's also a lot of sort of microbial and host interactions and signaling that goes on there, and exchange of nutrients. And so it's a really interesting and important community in these animals that has implications for animal performance, and also potentially on climate impact if it's changing their feed efficiency or reducing methane production. So there's a lot of sort of interesting things that go into or rather that we can get out of understanding these communities and designing probiotics or studying how they react to different conditions. And so that's kind of my main area of research at Iowa State University.
Thank you very much. Always impress us with the words you know in science. This is good. So David, I'm interested in this class 100. I have an idea what the class 100 clean room. Talk more about it in the microscopic robots that you mentioned in your bio.
Yeah, so a class 100 clean room just means that there can be no more than 100 particles per cubic meter that are larger than 2 microns. And that's on the higher end of the standards for clean rooms, which is where we fabricate like microchips. Anything that has to do with nanoscale devices needs to be in a very, very controlled environment, because you're working with things that are so small that if you were to say get a speck of dust or an eyelash or something on your sample, it's going to short the whole circuit. But without getting too technical, we fabricate the first fully programmable micro robots. So we built these using silicon fabrication processes, which is what the industry currently uses to fabricate like computer chips. Using those same lithographic technologies, we're able to fabricate these little robots massively in parallel on silicon wafers. And they basically just work by having 2 sets of photovoltaic cells on top of their body, where we shine the laser, and attached to those photovoltaic cells, there's these actuators that are made out of 10 atom layer thick layers of platinum, and then a capping layer of titanium. So we have these incredibly small robot legs that, depending on how you bias the voltage, shining that laser on the PV, you can get the robot to flex and unflex its legs. And if you just cycle that frequency quickly, you can get the robot to kind of swim forward. So that's where we currently are in our research now. We're actually producing the robots. Now the challenge is going to be, how do you get them to actually produce something useful? For me, I'd like to get into the biomedical space. So my PhD dissertation is going to be on using these robots to stretch neurons from within the body So there's currently, when you have a like a really bad spine injury, there's this neuron that goes from like the back of your skull to like the bottom of your vertebrae. And when it's cut or through blunt force or something, it doesn't heal back. So your body will try to naturally get it to regrow, and that's a process that, you know, it might grow 100 microns in the span of like 3 days. And when we're talking something, you know, on the order of, you know, a couple feet in length, it's just simply not going to happen. So the idea is to get these robots to go inside and try to stretch them. And once you get them in that vicinity, you know, biology will take over and they'll just kind of start morphing together. But we're far from that right now. We're just in, you know, in the fabrication and the in vitro experiments. But I definitely think, just like how we saw the microelectronic explosion in the 60s through pretty much just a few years ago with Moore's law and just computational power exponentially increasing, I think we've opened a new door in that we're going to see the same thing now, but for microscopic robots. And, you know, if anyone else is interested to talk about this further, I'm happy to share my email and whatever, you know, else. But that's basically it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Very well explained, David. Thank you very much. Corey Johnson, you'd like to talk about your PhD work, or which is in supramolecular chemistry or cancer drug? Just briefly, what you've done or what you do.
Okay, well, so we know that cancer is the second most leading cause of death in the world. And cancer operate when one of the characteristics of cancer is that the cells proliferate very much faster than they normally do. And that process is induced by a protein called tubulin. There is a compound that inhibits tubulin, which could slow down cancer. But the problem with it is that it slows it down too much to the point, well, it's not selective. So it'll slow down cell proliferation, period, which can cause death in a person. And so our job here, that drug per se is called colchicine. Our job here is to hit the colchicine binding site selectively for the cancers and not for the human variant of that protein. And the way that we do that is we create certain compounds called paroles that should go into the cell, give you the same type of inhibition that colchicine gives you for the cancer cell proliferation, but not for the human cell proliferation, which would stop the cancer in its tracks.
Thank you. Thank you for a really clear explanation. Bernard Smith, so what are you up to in Microsoft in Dallas, Texas?
Oh yeah, so here at Microsoft, like I said, one of my goals is to champion people to basically embrace technology, right? That fear, there's a lot of fear of technology, as we've seen with COVID. All of us are now remote. We don't use Zoom, of course. We use Microsoft Teams, and we got to get you all on Microsoft Teams. But I support Microsoft Teams, right? And I'm an advocate for you know, everybody changing their work life, right? And that's like remotely with our school system. So I'm working with a lot of schools right now. I'm working with a lot of organizations to transition from that physical work location to that remote learning workstation. How do we help these organizations stay at that forefront of this digital revolution that we're all in? And this is only the beginning of technology, digital revolution that we're all in today. As you're going to start seeing, there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be a more robotic move. You can see it in your grocery stores, right? You can see it in the way you shop. So a lot of that stuff that I'm working on the back end is definitely coming to fruition, I would say, in the coming years. So that's basically what I do at Microsoft. I take people's fear of technology and help you bridge the gap from where you were before to where you're aspiring to be, and help you build a solution to get you to where you're trying to go. So that's high level of what I do. Because if I go real technical, I might lose, everybody here. So thank you.
Thank you. Alia Ufud, I like this astrobiology, atmospheric modeling, paleoclimatology. Tell us a little bit about it. Not a lot of time left, but would love to hear about it.
Yeah, so my research, well, currently my thesis is looking at dust storms on Mars. So what I'm doing is that I use GCMs, which are like these three-dimensional modeling that you do on the computers. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm modeling modern Mars's atmosphere, and I'm seeing how dust storms are impacted by the obliquity. So Mars has a history of, there's evidence that supports that Mars had a different obliquity. Like we know that our axial tilt for Earth is 23 degrees. And for Mars, it's their obliquity tilt is somewhat similar, but it's about 25 degrees. But there's evidence that shows that it had very wide obliquity ranges, some as low as almost 0 degrees, and high as almost 60 degrees. So
you mean the planet has moved over time?
Yes, yes. And so what I'm doing is that I am simulating the planet in different orbital or obliquity configurations or tilts. So 0 degrees, 5 degrees, so forth and so forth. And I'm seeing how does that impact the dust cycle that occurs on Mars? Because we don't necessarily know a lot about the mechanism of action. We know that there's a lot of dust on the planet, but we don't necessarily know if the obliquity plays into those microphysics of that planet. So that's what my research is finding, and that we're also seeing how that with the dust cycle there, it's very much contingent on the topography of the planet, and so that's what part of my research is pretty much. And as far as the atmospheric model, using other atmospheric modeling, I've worked on applications that allow me to look at early Earth's atmosphere. We know that it didn't have oxygen in it. So I basically was simulating the atmospheric chemistry for those planets for early Earth. And I was seeing how methane and carbon dioxide created organic hazes. So organic hazes, for y'all chemistry, for people who don't know, are basically these big smogs of molecules, and that these hazes could actually have impacted on how life evolved on the planets. So that was another project that I'm really passionate about, and I'm hoping that I can tie those projects back by using my atmospheric modeling.
Thank you very much. Actually, my first degree is in physics, so I could get into this discussion with you one-on-one for a long time. So, but we won't go there. It's very, very interesting. Yes. I think the time is over. It was from 10:45 to 11:45. We just go over it by a few minutes. I'm assuming they're going to take us to another room in a minute, or are we going to go into a break?
Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome our distinguished keynote speaker, Ms. Joan Higginbotham. Ms. Higginbotham is an electrical engineer with dual master degrees and a 30-plus year career working with Fortune 500 companies in the aerospace, energy, and retail sectors. During her 9-year tenure at Kennedy Space Center, she participated in numerous space shuttle launches from the firing room, the quote-unquote nerve center, for launches, an impressive accomplishment for anyone. However, when she returned to Kennedy for the launch of Discovery on STS-116, she took participation to a whole new level as astronaut Joan Higginbotham. On her nearly 13-day space mission, Joan's primary task was to operate the Space Station Remote Manipulator System, SSRMS, better known as the robotic arm, assisting with the installation of the P5 thrust and supporting crew members during the spacewalks to rewire the space station's power system and retract the solar panel. To date, she is the third of only 3 African American women astronauts to fly in space. Higginbotham has received numerous awards, including World Who's Who of Women, Charlotte, North Carolina 50 Most Influential Women, the National Space Medal, the National Exceptional Space Medal, and Savoy's 2012 Top Influential Women in Corporate America. She has been conferred with an honorary doctorate in aerospace from Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, her alma mater, and an honorary doctorate in humanities from the University of New Orleans. Joan resides in Charlotte, North Carolina, and is married to the Honorable James E. Mitchell Jr. Let's all take this opportunity to welcome Joan Higginbotham. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Maddie. I'm going to start sharing my screen if that's okay. Can you see that, Miss Maddie?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon to everybody. I'm really excited to be with everyone today, but I'm especially excited to be with the students. And although we're virtual, I feel like I have a connection with you, and that's because I was all of you many, many, many years ago. So I'm not really sure how all of you came to be involved with STEM, but in my case, I would have to say that STEM chose me. As a child, I remember just being really, really curious, and I just loved to figure out how things worked. And I also loved math and science, which I think because it involved problem solving, which when you think about it, is what engineering is all about, problem solving. So one night, as I was watching TV in our den, I noticed this outlet that had 4 screws and a colored wire on it. And I remember that my grandmother had given us this beautiful powder blue phone. And I'm sure you guys, you all have cell phones all during your life. But this particular phone had these wires that hung out that you see that I have in the yellow circle. And if you notice, the wires in the yellow circle are the same color as the wires on the outlet. So I said, I wonder what would happen if I connected the wires to the outlet. And so I did. And I got a dial tone. And so I would wait till my parents went to sleep, and I'd sneak in the back, and I'd hook up the phone, and I'd call my friends at night. So I finally shared this little bit of wisdom with my mother last year. And although she was really impressed with my early engineering prowess, let's just say she was not too happy that I would sneak in the back and call my friends. But just to let you know, this is the only time I've used my engineering knowledge. So as I was going into high school, I learned about En-ROADS, which is a program very much like the one that you're involved with. And that's why I said that I feel that we have a connection. And through En-ROADS, I learned what I could do with my love of math and science and my national curiosity, and basically turn that into a career in engineering. So one big element of En-ROADS was that as a graduating senior from high school, you were matched with companies and were able to interview for a potential internship. Well, I got an internship with IBM, and IBM back in the day was the place to work. And I worked there for several summers, and it was a really good fit. And I just thought it was the natural transition after my college career. I'd be working for IBM. Unfortunately, they weren't hiring engineers at the time, and said that they'd bring me on as a sales rep and later on move me over into engineering. Well, in the meanwhile, somebody from NASA gave me a call, asked me if I wanted to move to Florida to be a rocket scientist to launch shuttles. Now, most people will find this the opportunity of a lifetime, but I'm not most people. So first of all, I really didn't have NASA on my list of companies that I really wanted to work for. And then secondly, a year earlier, NASA had had one of the biggest catastrophes ever. 73 seconds after Space Shuttle Challenger launched, the entire shuttle disintegrated. It was lost as well as her crew. So working for NASA didn't really seem like it was really a good career potential move. And so I wasn't really too sure about that. But I scored a trip down to the Kennedy Space Center. And the first thing I saw was a shuttle, which I just say it had its guts hanging out. So all the wiring that you see there is 10 miles of wiring inside of the shuttle. And it was so busy and there were so many people walking around. The first thing I thought was, why doesn't this blow up more often? It was just a million pieces that were there and had to work right for everything to go off flawlessly. Then we got to go out to the launch pad, and that was all it took. I was moving to Florida to launch rockets and be a rocket scientist. So every single day I got to work on the space shuttle, I got to meet astronauts, and I got to watch shuttles launch just 3 miles from my office front door. And I was getting paid. So this is a pretty good gig going on. Life was pretty good until one day my boss said to me 5 words that I always say literally changed my life forever. He said, "You'd be a great astronaut. You'd be a great astronaut." And I wasn't so sure because in my mind, astronauts were 10 feet tall and they were uber smart, and theoretically everything I thought that I wasn't. But really, when I sat down and thought about it, I said, that's just crazy thinking, right? I mean, if I was smart enough to get the shuttles ready for the astronauts to fly on, then obviously I was smart enough to fly on the shuttle. And so I put in an application to be an astronaut, along with 6,000 other people. And approximately 120 of us were actually interviewed to be an astronaut. And after 6 long months of having my background checked by the FBI, going through psychological and medical tests, all 120 of us received a phone call. Mine went something like this: "Joni, we had so many good candidates," which told me everything I needed to know. I had not been selected as one of the 15 people for that particular astronaut class. And then I was pretty devastated. I mean, I'm not really good at being told no, and I was one of the 120 people interviewed, so I thought I had a pretty good chance. But when I talked to the astronaut selection board, they thought my first master's degree was not technical enough. I got a master's in engineering management, and to me, I had a little bit of engineering and a little bit of business with the management, and I thought that was a perfect combination, but not so much for an astronaut. And so I went back to school. I got a second degree in aerospace engineering, reapplied, went through the entire selection process again, and was selected in the 1996 class of astronauts. So in August of 1996, my 43 best friends and I went to the Florida, the Johnson Space Center in Houston to start our astronaut training. We were nicknamed the Sardines because there were so many of us, and if you look at us, we all look like we're kind of squished there. And we spent the next year and a half learning how to fly supersonic jets, training on the shuttle simulator, and learning how to build the International Space Station, because that's what we're going to do on our respective space shuttle missions. After years of training, I was selected to fly on the crew of STS-116, and it was a great day when that happened because I've been waiting for a long time to be assigned to a mission. But before we could fly, we had another tragedy strike again. In 2003, just 16 minutes from landing after a wildly successful mission, Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated. And this time, 3 of my classmates were on board. We had 3 sardines on board. So you're probably thinking, why in the world would anybody want to fly on the shuttle after a second accident? And there are really 2 reasons. The first one was because of the accident, I knew that attention to safety was at an all-time high. They were crossing every T and dotting every I when it came to safety. So I wasn't really concerned about the safety of the shuttle. The second reason is that I know that every engineer and quality person and anyone else who works on the shuttle wants to deliver the best vehicle they can to the astronauts. Remember, I used to be one of those people, and I know them well, and I trusted them. Therefore, I wasn't ever concerned about getting on the shuttle. I never for one nanosecond gave a second thought about launching. So on December 9th, 2006, the crew of STS-116 launched into the night sky to continue the building of the International Space Station. And I just want to show you basically some highlights from our 13 days in space.
And here they come, our astronauts, led by Commander Martin Polanski, pilot William Oefelein, Nicholas Patrick, Robert Kirby, Christopher Fugelsang, Joan Higginbotham, and Sonny Williams. 3, 2, 1. We are booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, lighting up the nighttime sky as we continue building the International Space Station.
Sorry about that. So during our mission, we took up another piece of the space station hardware. We took up about 6,000 pounds of equipment, and we did a crew transfer. So Sonny came up on the space shuttle with us, and then we brought down Thomas Ryder, who had been up on the International Space Station for 4 months. So that was an incredible 13 days, magical, exceptional, whatever you want to call them, that I spent quite literally out of this world, thanks to my training in STEM. It took over 13 years and about 10 space missions, over 10 years and 30 space shuttle missions to actually complete the International Space Station, and that's what it looks like today. It's been inhabited with astronauts and cosmonauts for nearly 21 years. So for as long as most of the students have been alive, there have been people orbiting the Earth ever since 2000. And I can say proudly that I played a part in that. So here are a couple of things that I want you to take away from our time together today. Besides, space is really cool, because it is, but there's some things that are really more important than space being cool. And the first one is that I would encourage all of you to study hard. If you're in the field, you probably know that STEM is very challenging, at least it was for me. And as much as I love math and science, sometimes it didn't love me back, and I needed help. And so I got help. And although STEM is challenging, it is in no means insurmountable. I mean, I did it. I know you can do it as well. So I guarantee you, whatever you do in STEM, it's definitely worth the effort. So study hard. The second thing I would share with you is perseverance. So I could have easily, after the first time I applied to be an astronaut and not being selected, could have given up. And trust me, the thought did cross my mind a time or two or three or four. But as I said earlier, I'm not really good with people telling me that I can't do something. And so I needed to go back and get another degree so that I could try this again. And that was the key to my being selected as an astronaut. So always persevere. And the last thing I'd like to share with you is this quote that I found that I just thought speaks to who I am and who I know you can be. You control your own destiny. So the quote says, the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. So I say to all of you, decide to be great. So thank you for your time and your attention, for letting me spend a little bit of time with you. I hope you're enjoying the conference, and I wish you good luck in your college career and in your professional career.
Will you have time?
That's all I have, Miss Maddie.
Okay. Will you have time for a few questions? Just a few.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing.
You're free to ask any questions.
Ms. Higginbotham, this is Dr. Gupta here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So
yes, I can.
So I really don't have a question, but I have a comment to make. I think, first of all, thank you very much for being here. Maddie, Miss Maddie and I have always relied upon you. The second time you've been here with us. And really, thank you very, very much. And in fact, I do quote you in my classes in JCSU. I do tell my younger students. And I said, well, Ms. Higginbotham is the one you're idol to look up to. So please, and so I appreciate that once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello, hi Ms. Higginbotham. I am Princess Bush. I'm a senior biology major at Bennett College, and I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, and really like your testimony of how STEM has been a part of your life. And I'm really just in awe still of your story and the things that you've gotten to do, and thank you just for your time today and your dedication to STEM. My question today is, as far as going into space, like what was that like being in the shuttle and knowing that there's this future ahead that you're literally walking into, and then looking back at the earth that you were on and just that pathway, what was that like for you? And what did it, how did it differ from what you thought it would be in good ways and in just altogether? How did that differ from what you previously expected?
And so my internet connection is like unstable, so you're cutting out, but I think I understand. I heard most of the question. So it was incredible as we were sitting on the launch pad waiting to launch. And it was even more special December 9th because that was our second attempt. We had tried 2 nights earlier and didn't get off the ground. And so it was really exciting waiting, for the launch count to go down and tick down to T-0 and for us to get off, because many of us had been waiting years because of the accident to fly. As far as what I expected in space and was it different, I don't know that I necessarily had any expectations. One good thing that the astronaut office does is when crews come back from a space flight, they debrief you about what happened, the mission in general, the mistakes they made, different tips so that you don't make mistakes, all that kind of stuff. And so I think I had a fairly good understanding of how the mission was going to be. And we are trained ad nauseum, so you know what to do day in and day out. And so I didn't necessarily have any expectations. The one thing I will say that surprised me was that when I really did for the first time get a chance to just press my nose against the window and watch the world tick by at 17,500 miles per hour, it just dawned on me how incredibly fragile the Earth is and how we need to be very careful of how we treat it, because right now it's the only place we have to live.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kristen, would you ask your question?
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Higginbotham. That was so inspiring. I was wondering what advice you'd give to a student with a passion for astronomy and engineering who is interested in applying for a job at NASA. Like, how does someone break in these days into the field?
So believe it or not, you just apply. So you go on the NASA website. You know, there are multiple NASA centers, but if you're probably interested in engineering and astronomy, the two places that I'd probably apply to most would be NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab out in California. They're the ones that are in charge of the Mars rover, and they do a lot of the telescopes and that type of thing. The other one that I'd probably recommend would be Goddard Space Flight Center in Virginia for research as well. The websites are really pretty good for the most part about keeping their jobs open and listed on their websites. I would also encourage, especially at this time since you're college students, to look for internships. NASA does have internships at their centers, and that is a good way to get your foot in the door for a couple of reasons. You can do that, and you can decide if this is something that, yes, indeed, I would like to pursue as a career. And even if you go in there and work and say, this is not something I want to pursue as a career, it's experience, and you're not wasting your time later on pursuing something that is not going to be of interest to you. So the websites are really great resources for all things NASA and jobs and internships.
Thank you.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Melton, your comments?
I was just going to say, hello once again. I met you for the first time, I guess, a number of years ago at Johnson C. Smith when we were at the in-person session, and it was such an inspiring meeting for our young scholars back then, and to now actually, see the film with you. I'm going up in space. That's just amazing, and good job. You're a role model for women, African American women, and for all. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
I think Princess Bush had raised her hand.
Thank you. Sorry, I do have another question. So I did hear you mention how STEM is difficult and challenging, and it's my final semester, final few classes in undergrad, and I am taking physics, which has been unexpectedly difficult for me. I expected it to be challenging, but it's on a whole nother level of challenging for me. And we have study groups. We do have different resources that have been available to me, and it's still very challenging. So from that, I do have two questions. The first one is, what were some ways that you overcame some of the challenges you faced in your STEM courses and even in your problem solving? And the second question is, how were you able, or what were some ways that you were able to separate your quote unquote fails from your identity and from your passion itself?
So as far as tips, you're doing some of the things now. You have a study group, which is really great because sometimes someone can see the problem differently for you and help you look at it through a different lens to understand it. I mean, that happened with me. And then I would get a tutor for some things. For me, my difficult course was differential equations. And so I actually had the TA was a tutor, and he tutored me in that. So as much help as you can get, just accept it and take it. The second question, separating the failures from my identity. So here's the thing. Whenever you do something that is noteworthy and challenging, you're going to have failures, and that's life. I mean, it's in your coursework. I've had hiccups, something wrong. Thank God it wasn't $1 million mistake, but it was a small mistake, and that's life. And so you have to understand that there will be peaks and there will be valleys. Don't let those valleys keep you down. I didn't really go into a whole bunch, but when I did not get selected that first time, I mean, it was epic for me, because no one from the Kennedy Space Center had ever applied to be an astronaut. So everybody was watching me and waiting and rooting me on. And so when I failed, when I didn't get selected, I felt as though it was an epic failure, because the entire Space Center, all 18,000 people, knew I did not get selected. But I knew that in my mind, if I had given it my all and my best and I didn't succeed, that was okay. As long as I put forward my best effort, I am okay with the outcome. And I think that's how you have to look at things. And it's not you being a failure, it's you didn't succeed at a particular thing. That's okay. That's life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Joan Higginbotham, thanks so very much again. Always coming to the rescue.
You're quite welcome, Miss Maddie.
And sharing your wealth of wisdom, passion. So on behalf of the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, again, for the faculty, the staff, the students, thanks so very much again. And so at this point, we will move on to our next session. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Higginbotham. I really appreciated your inspirational and personalized and encouraging talk. I also love seeing your big smile as you strode out towards the launch. That was great to see in the video. It brought to mind a memory. My mother took me to Dulles Airport to see the shuttle. I think it was piggybacked on a 747 back when I was younger. And it was an exciting moment in my childhood. So thank you for bringing back that memory.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so I know we had a couple students with lingering questions. Feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll capture those for our next gathering. And so these are just our closing remarks. It's now afternoon after a full morning together. So students, faculty, staff members, and honored guests, we appreciate you spending today with us for the 2021 Virginia North Carolina Alliance Retreat. I'm Kristen Morgan, and I serve as the program director and co-PI for the Alliance, and as senior director for grants administration and strategic partnerships at the University of Virginia. My Alliance colleague will now introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, thank you all for gathering here and taking time out of your schedule. My name, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Maurice Walker. I'm the program coordinator for the VA-NC Alliance. In the chat box, I went ahead and put a link to our evaluation. If you could just take a few minutes just to offer some feedback. This is the inaugural VA-NC Alliance virtual retreat, and I do emphasize the word inaugural. So, I'm very thankful for very few technical hiccups. We really just enjoy your, greatly appreciate your patience and bearing with us. And I'll turn it back over to Kristen for some more comments.
Sure. Yeah, we really want to acknowledge the tremendous work of our colleagues at Johnson C. Smith University, Dr. Sunil Gupta and Ms. Maddie Marshall. They not only worked hard to plan this retreat, they also planned last year's undergraduate research symposium that unfortunately was canceled due to the pandemic. So we're grateful, Ms. Marshall and Dr. Gupta, for your dedication to Alliance students and your commitment to bringing our Alliance community together in this virtual space.
And we'd also like to thank, we're very thankful for the support we've received from our honored guests, such as Dr. Gompa, who is the Dean of STEM at Johnson C. Smith University. We're also very grateful for the support of President Armbruster for Johnson C. Smith University. And we truly appreciate everyone down the line, whether it's the panelists, the recruiters, the moderators, again, our distinguished speaker, Ms. Joan Higginbotham, and we really appreciate, our alumni. And our Alliance alumni are the engine that keeps us going. They time and again, when we call upon them to come back and give back to our students, and they really, I want to say, they really give us fuel, as the administrative team, because we, through your triumphs and your successes, we see what we're doing right, and gives us the energy and the strength to move forward.
Well said, Maurice. Thank you also to our Alliance partners for your tireless work throughout this last difficult year to find ways to support your students. I also want to give a big shout out to Ms. Deborah White, although she could not be with us today. She's our Alliance Fiscal Administrator, and her support has been essential, especially as we all adapted during the pandemic to find different ways to utilize our grant funds in support of students. And today would not have been possible without the talented Joy Elmore, who is a member of the Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion staff at UVA. She orchestrated today's Zoom experience for everyone, so thank you, Joy. And finally, to our students, like Marie said, the future is bright with our students and alumni. It's beginning to look brighter after this long pandemic winter. It's been a traumatic year on many levels due to racialized violence, the suffering caused by COVID-19, especially for communities of color, ongoing inequities and disparities in public health, education, and much more, all made more acute by the pandemic. So students, we see your resilience and encourage you to take good care of yourselves, both physically and mentally.
And students, I just want to touch upon one of the key things that have been shared by all of our speakers is, finding summer research opportunities. That seems to be something that everyone has shared that is very critical to next steps. And for those of you, who are familiar with the emails that are forwarded to you, just sharing opportunities, I want to again plug that the Alliance's website under our current opportunities subpage. We continuously update that with information. I'm also putting that information on our social media pages as well. We're really trying to beef up social media. So, we have a Facebook group. I'll put some things on our Twitter page and our LinkedIn page as well. And, if you are still looking for something, there is one opportunity that we have on our current opportunities page that has a deadline of April 1st. For those of you who are looking for an NSF opportunity, the topical group in plasma astrophysics is looking for students for an opportunity hosted by Swarthmore College. And again, the deadline for that is April 1st. Details can be found on the current opportunities page on our website. I'm fairly certain I included that in the last opportunities email that I sent out. Again, for those of you who were able to join us today, I want to also mention that in terms of conference favors, we will be getting those out to our partners. So be on the lookout for those packages. They'll contain some Alliance t-shirts, pins, drawstring bags, and so forth.
Maurice, one student asked a question. Will there be research opportunities for international students?
So unfortunately, it's based on what I'm sharing. I haven't really come across that many international opportunities this go around. And again, I do plan on sending out another opportunities communication. So I will do a little bit of digging and see what I can find on the international front. I think one of the difficulties with that right now is because typically there's a few that come on that pop up on our radar. It's just that due to COVID-19, international travel is very difficult at this time, and there are a lot of programs, including the Alliance of Summer Research Opportunity, that shifted to a virtual format again for 2021. So it may be 2022 before things get back to normal with regard to international opportunities, or at least us being able to find more.
Thank you, Maurice. And I dropped the link to the opportunities page that Maurice had mentioned. That's in the chat. And if you'd like to check out our social media accounts, the Alliance social media accounts, you can see the buttons in our footer at the bottom of the webpage. So final message for our students. Oh, yes, Ms. Marshall?
Okay.
Yeah. A final message for our students. Each of you carries the promise of excellence in STEM. We wish you all great success in your academic journeys and hope that the Alliance retreat today has been a supportive experience. We look forward to seeing you in person in the future, hopefully at the Alliance's Undergraduate Research Symposium next spring. The location is still to be determined. It will likely be in Virginia. We typically rotate between our North Carolina partners and our Virginia partners. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and semester. Thank you again.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Kristen. Hi, this is Aaliyah. If I'm dropping a link in the chat right now, I'm looking for it right now, but for that question addressing the internationals, there's a database website that you can look at that somebody created. I'm looking for it right now. Just give me a second.
Sure. Thank you for that, Aaliyah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aaliyah.
Thanks, Aaliyah.
Yeah, again, one of our alumni.
Yes.
Looking out for current students. We always appreciate that. And Aaliyah has been associated with 3 of our partner schools, starting at Elizabeth City State University as an undergraduate, National Radio Astronomy Observatory as a researcher, and UVA as a summer researcher. And now a graduate student at Howard. And I believe moving on to yet another partner school, George Mason University, for her PhD.
I remember judging her poster, if I'm not mistaken, in Elizabeth City.
Oh, that's great.
I think so. The name is very familiar.
I can speak to the fact that if you go to UVA, you're going to get a heck of an education.
Oh, please.
That's where Dr. Russell is from.
Oh, okay. Okay. No bias there, right?
No bias at all. PhD 73.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, great educations at all of our partner schools. We're always learning from each other. Really appreciate that part.
I can't seem to locate it right now, but is it all right? I can forward it to you, and then I guess you can, okay.
Yeah, we can share that out. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Most of it. Thank you, Aaliyah.
No problem.
Well, thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day and week. Take good care.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
I would like to thank your big team at UVA and the hard work of Dr. Sunil Gupta and Matty Marshall. You made it a wonderful conference under this very difficult situation. And I know first you went through a very hard time by arranging everything. And then we had to do like this. We all really appreciate all the hard work you have put in. And I hope from now on, because I think we are getting better and better when it comes to the pandemic, and the time will be better. And so we will be doing better. And Leah, I am Alok Berry at George Mason University. I would like to meet with you when the good times come. And I think it is coming. Probably in the summer, the things will be better. I would like to have a good meeting with you so that I can also use your services. You can be an encouragement to our wonderful group of students we have here at George Mason.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay. Definitely.
Christine. Now you have seen me. So please, I'm in Volcano School of Engineering, professor in electrical and computer.
Yes, I should be up there
Christine,
this summer.
I like to say, this is Ali Khan from Elizabeth City. I like to thank Dr. Gupta, outstanding job. Thank you for your time and effort, and Ms. Marshall.
We sincerely appreciate what you have been doing and you will be doing for us. And Christine and Maurice, you're the champs. You did your job. Now it's our part to make sure that we have a productive year. So we look forward to work hard and make sure that we get the goals and objectives for this year, although it's a time span is so critical, but we'll do our best. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. John.
Thank you.
Kristen, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. Bowes, Diane Bowes. She's our G-SPAR person. So Dr. Bowes, will you say a quick hello to everyone? We appreciate all your hard work.
Okay, thank you for that opportunity, Maddie. I would like to say that Dr. Gupta and his team here with Maddie Marshall, they work very hard on behalf of our students. And we are so proud of the work down through the years. I have been at Johnson C. Smith since 2002. And I go back to Dr. Chopra's time. So we have been doing this, and we I see thumbs up with Hank Russell and all. So we are happy for the work that they are doing, and it's on behalf of the students. And so I hope you all keep up the good work. I know that you will, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. And thank you for the opportunity to say hello. I've been in meetings all morning and Zooming.
Yes,
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And it's been a privilege to work with our JCSU colleagues, Ms. Marshall and Dr. Gupta, for sure.
Same to you, Kristen and Maurice. An honor.